A werewolf shifter romance audiobook written by Daniel. The scent hit me first. Pine and rain, and something that made my wolf slam against my ribcage like a caged animal recognizing its mate. Across the neutral ground, silver eyes locked onto mine. Kael Silvercrest. Enemy. Rival. The son of the man who might have killed my father. And my soul's other half. I had seconds to choose. Pack loyalty, or the bond burning through my veins like wildfire. Behind me, my brother's voice cut through the night. Sera, step back. Now. But Kael was already moving toward me, and every instinct I had screamed one word, mine. The ancient laws said mate bonds transcended everything. My pack said choosing him meant exile. Death. Or worse, a love so forbidden it would destroy us both. His hand extended across the boundary line. And I reached back. Chapter 1. Hey star-crossed souls. Ready to risk everything for a love no law can allow? Tonight, two hearts collide across enemy lines, where one glance could ignite a war, and one touch could destroy everything they've ever known. Some loves are meant to be hidden in the shadows. But can they survive the light? The neutral ground reeked of old blood and broken promises. Sera Blackthorn stood at the edge of the Shadowvale forest, her boots sinking into the damp earth where Nightshade-packed territory kissed the forbidden border. The autumn moon hung low and swollen, casting silver fingers through the skeletal branches above. She could taste the tension in the air, metallic and sharp, like a blade pressed against skin. "This is madness," her cousin Marcus whispered beside her, his breath misting in the cold. "If Matthias finds out you came to the peace talks, then he'll finally understand I'm not some porcelain doll to be locked away in the manor." Sera's amber eyes flashed with defiance. 23 years of being treated like a prize rather than a person had worn her patience to threads. The Silvercrest pack requested neutral representation. "I'm here as a witness, nothing more." Marcus's jaw tightened. "They're animals, Sera. Honorless thieves who've raided our territory for decades. Your father would turn in his grave. And whose fault is that?" The thought burned bitter on her tongue, but she swallowed it. The Silvercrest wolves had been blamed for her father's death 15 years ago. A hunting accident, they called it, though the Blackthorn pack knew better. Knew the arrow that pierced his heart had been meant for someone else. Knew the Silvercrests had orchestrated chaos to cover their tracks. 50 years of bloodshed. 2 generations of widows and orphans. All because of territory neither pack could prove rightful claim to. The clearing ahead opened like a mouth, ringed by ancient stones that predated both packs. 7 figures waited on the far side, Silvercrest wolves, their silver-gray fur and ice-blue eyes unmistakable even in human form. They moved with a predator's grace, muscles coiled beneath leather and denim, every breath a calculated risk. "There," Marcus pointed to the tallest figure. "Kael Silvercrest. Their alpha's son. Stay clear of him. I've heard he can smell lies like rotting meat." Sera's gaze locked onto the man in question. Kael Silvercrest stood apart from his pack mates, arms crossed over a broad chest, his dark hair catching moonlight like raven feathers. Even across the clearing, she could see the sharp angles of his face. High cheekbones, a jaw that could cut glass, and eyes that glowed like molten silver in the darkness. He wore authority like a second skin, every inch of him screaming danger. And God's help her, something in her wolf stirred. No, absolutely not. She tore her gaze away, focusing instead on the neutral arbitrator. Elder Moira, a grizzled she-wolf from the Timber Ridge pack who'd overseen peace talks for half a century. The old woman's white braids gleamed as she raised her staff. "Let the ancient laws be honored." Moira's voice carried across the clearing, rough as bark and twice as unyielding. "No blood spilled on neutral ground. No claws bared in anger. Speak your grievances with truth, or leave this place in shame." Matthias Blackthorn, Sera's older brother and current alpha, stepped forward. His presence commanded respect, broad-shouldered, golden-eyed, every movement deliberate. "The Silvercrest pack has violated our eastern boundary 3 times this month. Livestock slaughtered, scent markers destroyed, our patrols threatened with violence. We demand." "Demand." Kael's voice cut through the night like a whip crack, smooth and lethal. He moved forward with liquid grace, closing the distance between the two groups. "Your eastern boundary sits on land that belonged to Silvercrest for 200 years before your grandfather stole it through falsified treaties. Careful, pup." Matthias's eyes flashed gold. "Those are fighting words. Then perhaps it's time we stopped pretending these talks lead anywhere but war. Sera watched Kael's hands, calloused, scarred, the hands of a warrior who'd earned every mark. They remained loose at his sides, but she could see the tension thrumming through his frame, the wolf barely leashed beneath human skin. Enough! Elder Moira slammed her staff into the earth. You both posture like young bucks in rutting season. State your terms, or I'll declare this meeting void. Matthias straightened. Silvercrest withdraws all claims to the disputed territory. They pay restitution for damages. 50 head of livestock, 10 barrels of preserved meat. And they assign 2 pack members as hostages to ensure compliance. A growl rippled through the Silvercrest wolves. Hostages? Kael's laugh was dark, humorless. You mean prisoners? Collateral for a crime we didn't commit. His silver eyes swept the Nightshade delegation, dismissive, until they landed on Sera. The world tilted. She'd heard about mate bonds, that electric recognition, the soul-deep pull that defied logic and law. Fairy tales, she'd thought. Stories to romanticize arranged marriages and political alliances. But gods, the way Kael's eyes widened, the way his breath caught audibly across 30 feet of charged air. No, this isn't happening. And who, Kael said slowly, his gaze never leaving hers, is this? Matthias stepped protectively in front of Sera. My sister. A witness, nothing more. She has no part in these negotiations. Your sister. Kael's voice had gone soft, dangerous. He tilted his head, nostrils flaring as he scented the air. Sera Blackthorn. I've heard stories about the wild child of the Nightshade Pack. They say you shifted during a full moon ritual when you were 12 and disappeared into the forest for 3 days. That you returned covered in mud and glory, having hunted and killed your first stag alone. Heat crept up Sera's neck. Ancient history. Is it? He took another step forward, and Matthias tensed. Because from where I'm standing, you look like a caged bird dying to fly. Watch your tongue, Silvercrest. Marcus moved to Matthias's side, flanking Sera. Or lose it. But Sera couldn't look away. Couldn't stop the trembling that started in her core and radiated outward. Kael Silvercrest was forbidden in every possible way. Enemy, rival, the son of the man who might have ordered her father's death. Everything in her should recoil. Instead, her wolf pressed against her skin, desperate to get closer. We counter your terms, said Rowan Silvercrest, Kael's father, stepping forward. The alpha was older, grizzled, with scars mapping decades of battle across his arms. Nightshade seeds the eastern hunting grounds. You provide safe passage through your territory for our trade routes. And you offer a hostage to ensure your own compliance. Unacceptable, Matthias snarled. Then we have nothing more to discuss. Rowan turned to leave, his pack moving to follow. Wait. The word escaped Sera's lips before she could stop it. Every head swiveled toward her. Matthias shot her a warning glare, but she ignored it, stepping around him. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she approached the center of the clearing, stopping just shy of the ancient boundary stones. What if there was another way? She directed her words to Elder Moira, though she felt Kael's gaze burning into her skin. The old laws speak of trial by ordeal, a test of worthiness to settle disputes. Moira's eyes narrowed. Go on, child. Each pack sends a champion. They complete 3 trials over 3 nights, tests of strength, wisdom, and heart. The winner's pack gains rightful claim to the disputed territory, and both sides honor the outcome. No bloodshed, no hostages, just a chance to prove who deserves what we're fighting for. Silence stretched like pulled taffy. Then Kael laughed. A real laugh this time, rich and warm despite the circumstances. Bold. Reckless. His silver eyes gleamed. I like it. Silvercrest accepts on one condition. Name it, Matthias growled. I choose my own trial partner. Kael's gaze locked onto Sera once more, and the world narrowed to just the 2 of them. Her? Absolutely not. Matthias grabbed Sera's arm. She's not trained for. I accept. Sera yanked free, her chin lifting. Somewhere in the rational part of her brain, warning bells screamed. But the pull toward Kael Silvercrest was undeniable. And maybe, just maybe, if she understood it, she could control it. 3 trials. 3 nights. May the worthiest pack win. Kael's slow smile was lethal. You have no idea what you've just agreed to, little wolf. Then I suppose we'll both find out. Elder Moira raised her staff, her expression unreadable. So witnessed. The trials begin tomorrow at moonrise. Champions will meet at the Heart Stone with 1 second each. All other pack members remain on their own territory until trials conclude. She fixed Sera and Kael with a hard stare. And remember, no blood spilled on neutral ground. That includes each other. As the packs began to separate, Sera felt the weight of her decision settle over her shoulders. Matthias wouldn't speak to her on the walk back, his fury radiating like heat. Marcus kept glancing at her like she'd sprouted a second head. But just before the Silvercrest wolves disappeared into the trees, Kael looked back. Their eyes met across the darkness, a promise and a threat tangled together. And beneath her breastbone, Sera's wolf howled with recognition. Mate. The word whispered through her consciousness like smoke. Impossible. Forbidden. Dangerous. And absolutely terrifyingly real. Chapter 2. The Blackthorn Manor loomed against the pre-dawn sky like a stone sentinel, its towers cutting sharp silhouettes into the fading stars. Sera's boots echoed on the marble floors as she slipped through the servants' entrance, hoping to avoid. My office. Now. Matthias's voice stopped her cold. She found him behind their father's old desk. His desk now, she reminded herself, amber eyes blazing in the lamplight. Marcus stood by the window, arms crossed, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. Have you lost your mind? Matthias didn't wait for her to sit. Agreeing to trials with a Silvercrest? Worse with him. You weren't getting anywhere with your posturing. Sera matched his glare. At least this way, we have a chance to settle things without more bloodshed. Bloodshed? He laughed bitter. You think trials are bloodless? The last time our packs attempted trial by ordeal was 60 years ago. 3 wolves died, and the feud only deepened. These aren't games, Sera. They're sanctioned violence dressed in ceremony. Then maybe I should have been trained for violence instead of embroidery and pack politics. Matthias slammed his palm on the desk. You think I kept you protected for fun? You're our father's daughter. The last living reminder of the Blackthorn bloodline before my generation. Every rival pack sees you as either a prize or a target. If something happens to you, then you'll finally stop treating me like a porcelain doll and start treating me like pack. She leaned forward, fingers splayed on the polished wood. I'm not asking permission, Matthias. Elder Moira witnessed my acceptance. The old laws are binding. The old laws also say I can withdraw my pack's participation and forfeit the territory. And look weak to every pack in the region? They already whisper that Nightshade is declining, that we're living on our grandfather's reputation. This is a chance to prove otherwise. Silence stretched between them, thick with history and unspoken grief. Finally, Matthias sank into his chair, suddenly looking every one of his 30 years. Why him? His voice softened. Of all the ways to solve this, why agree to partner with Kael Silvercrest? Because her wolf recognized him as mate. Because every instinct screamed to get closer even as her mind recoiled. Because standing across from him had felt like coming home and stepping off a cliff simultaneously. But she couldn't say any of that. Because he's arrogant enough to think he's already won, she lied smoothly. Which means he'll underestimate me. I've studied the old trial records, Matthias. The trials test more than strength. They test cunning, endurance, and the ability to work with your opponent even while competing. He sees me as a caged bird. Let him. Underestimation is a weapon. Marcus finally spoke from the window. She has a point. Kael's got a reputation for being brilliant but reckless. If anyone can throw him off balance, it's an opponent he doesn't take seriously. Matthias studied her for a long moment, then sighed. Fine. But you train today, no arguments. And you take Lissa as your second. She's the best tracker we have, and she's saved my hide more times than I can count. Relief flooded through Sera. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. His expression hardened again. The first trial is moonrise tonight. That gives you 14 hours to prepare for God's know what. And Sera, he waited until she met his eyes. Don't trust him. Not for a second. Kael Silvercrest is charming, clever, and utterly loyal to his pack. Whatever you think you saw in that clearing, it's a tactic. Remember who killed our father. The words landed like stones in her gut. She nodded once, then left before her expression could betray her. The training ground sprawled behind the manor, packed earth worn smooth by generations of sparring wolves. Lissa waited there, lean and dangerous in worn leather, her dark hair braided tight against her skull. Heard you volunteered us for suicide, Lissa said by way of greeting. Want to tell me what you were thinking? That I'm tired of watching men talk in circles while nothing changes. Sera stripped off her jacket, revealing the fitted training gear beneath. You don't have to be my second if. Please. Like I'd miss this. Lissa's grin was sharp. Besides, someone needs to keep you alive when Silvercrest's golden boy tries to gut you. They spent the morning running drills, combat forms, evasion techniques, the subtle art of reading an opponent's tells. Sera's wolf form was smaller than most, built for speed rather than brute strength, and Lissa pushed her to use every advantage. The trials won't just be physical, Lissa said during a water break. Elder Moira's old school. She'll test your wits, your honor, maybe even your humanity. Remember the trial of 1847? They made the champions choose between saving their partner or winning the challenge. What happened? Both chose their partner. The trial was declared void, and the feud continued. Lissa's expression grew serious. But here's the thing, they chose together. In perfect sync, without communication. Like they'd known each other's hearts instinctively. Sera's stomach twisted. What are you saying? I'm saying chemistry matters in these trials. The old laws mention unity of purpose and harmony of spirit. Whatever exists between you and Kael Silvercrest. And don't pretend I didn't see the way you two stared at each other. It could be an advantage. Or a fatal weakness. Before Sera could respond, a howl echoed across the valley, long, low, and unmistakably Silvercrest. They're establishing their presence, Lissa murmured, tracking the sound. Reminding us they're close. Arrogant bastards. But Sera heard something else in that howl. A question. A call. And God's help her. Her wolf wanted to answer. Moonrise came too quickly. Sera stood at the heartstone as twilight bled into darkness. Lissa a silent shadow at her back. The ancient monolith rose 15 feet high, carved with symbols predating written history. Wolves and moons and bonds that transcended pack law. She wore practical gear tonight. Dark pants, fitted tunic, boots designed for running. Her red-brown hair was braided back, revealing the elegant column of her neck. No jewelry, no ornamentation. Just a warrior preparing for the unknown. Steady, Lissa whispered. Remember, he's the enemy. No matter what your instincts say. Then the Silvercrests arrived. Kael emerged from the tree line like a shadow given form, moonlight turning his dark hair silver at the edges. He dressed similarly, black on black, every line emphasizing the predator beneath human skin. Behind him stalked a woman Sera recognized as Dara, Kael's second, a scarred warrior whose reputation for ruthlessness was legendary. Elder Moira waited at the Heartstone's base, her white ceremonial robes gleaming. Champions. Her voice carried authority. The first trial tests your ability to survive together in hostile territory. You will be blindfolded and transported separately to the Thornwood, neutral ground claimed by no pack, hunted by all manner of predator. You must find each other, then locate 3 sacred tokens hidden throughout the forest. Return here before dawn with all 3 tokens, or forfeit your pack's claim. Sera's pulse quickened. The Thornwood was notorious, dense, dangerous, home to bears, wildcats, and worse things that hunted under cover of darkness. The catch, Moira continued, is that you cannot shift into wolf form until you've found your partner. Human senses only. Human strength only. The tokens will call to your wolves, but you must resist until you're reunited. Kael's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Any questions? Moira asked. Just one. Kael's silver eyes found Sera across the clearing. What happens if only one of us makes it back? Then both of you lose. This trial demands partnership, not individual glory. Moira's expression was granite. You succeed together or fail together. There is no middle ground. Sera swallowed hard. Forced to rely on a Silvercrest, on her enemy. On the man her wolf kept whispering was mate. Blindfolds, Moira commanded. Lissa tied dark cloth over Sera's eyes, her fingers gentle but firm. Trust your instincts, she whispered. But guard your heart. Sera. Kael's voice came from somewhere to her right, closer than expected. When you find me, and you will, remember that survival doesn't care about pack politics. Out there, we're just 2 wolves trying to make it home. Agreed. She wanted to hate how reasonable he sounded. Wanted to resist the shiver that ran through her at the rough timbre of his voice. Agreed, she said instead. But only until dawn. After that, we go back to being enemies. Something in his tone suggested he didn't quite believe it either. I can live with that. Hands gripped her arms. Neutral wolves from Elder Moira's pack, tasked with transport. She felt herself lifted, carried, the sounds of the heartstone fading as they bore her toward the thornwood, toward danger, toward Kael, toward a night that would change everything. The last thing she heard before the forest swallowed her was another Silvercrest howl. And this time, her wolf howled back in silence, straining against her skin. Find him. Protect him. Claim him. Gods help me, Sera whispered into the darkness. Because tonight, she wasn't sure which would be more dangerous, the Thornwood's predators, or the pull toward a man she was supposed to hate. Chapter 3. The blindfold came off with a sharp tug. Sera blinked against the darkness, her eyes adjusting to the dense canopy overhead that choked out most of the moonlight. The neutral wolves had already vanished, leaving her alone in a section of the thornwood that felt ancient and hostile. Gnarled oaks twisted into grotesque shapes, their roots erupting from earth that smelled of rot and old magic. Silence pressed against her ears. Not the peaceful quiet of a sleeping forest, but the predatory stillness of something waiting to strike. Find Kael. Find the tokens. Survive until dawn. Simple enough in theory. Impossible in practice, especially without her wolf senses. Her human nose caught only decay and damp earth. Her human ears picked up the distant sound of water, but couldn't pinpoint direction or distance. She was essentially blind in a forest designed to kill. Think, she muttered, forcing down panic. What would Lissa do? Use the environment. Read the signs. Sera studied the clearing where she'd been left. The moss grew thicker on the northern sides of the trees. Basic survival knowledge. The ground sloped gently downward to her left, suggesting water flow. And there, a broken branch at shoulder height, the wood still white and fresh. Someone had passed through recently, deliberately marking their path. Kael. Her heart stuttered. He couldn't have known where she'd be dropped, but he was smart enough to leave signs once he got his bearings. She followed the trail. Another snapped branch, a stone placed deliberately atop a stump, a strip of torn fabric tied to a low-hanging vine. The forest grew denser as she moved, thorns catching at her clothes, exposed roots threatening to trip her with every step. Her human body felt clumsy, vulnerable in ways she hadn't experienced since childhood. Without her enhanced hearing, any predator could stalk her undetected. A twig snapped behind her. Sera spun, her hand instinctively going to the knife at her belt. The only weapon Mora had permitted. Nothing but shadows and swaying branches greeted her. Kael, she called softly, then cursed herself. If that wasn't him, she'd just announced her presence to every dangerous thing in the thornwood. The wind shifted, carrying a scent that made her wolf slam against her ribcage. Pine and rain and something uniquely him. Close. He was close. Looking for me, little wolf? She whirled to find Kael emerging from behind an ancient oak, moving with the fluid grace of someone entirely comfortable in hostile territory. A thin scratch traced his jaw, and his dark shirt was torn at the shoulder, but his silver eyes gleamed with something that looked dangerously like amusement. You left a trail, she said, hating how breathless she sounded. Subtle, but clear enough for someone who knows what to look for. And you followed it. Smart. He closed the distance between them, stopping just outside what would have been comfortable personal space if they were anywhere but here. We need to move. There's a black bear denning about half a mile east, and I may have accidentally crossed her territory getting to you. May have. His grin was quick and unrepentant. Definitely did. She's not happy about it. As if summoned by his words, a roar split the night, deep, primal, and far too close. Run, Kael said simply. They ran. Sera's human body protested immediately, lungs burning, muscles screaming as she pushed for speed on uncertain terrain. Kael stayed beside her, matching her pace rather than outrunning her, and she couldn't decide if that was chivalry or strategy. Behind them, crashing sounds and furious huffing grew louder. There, Kael pointed to an outcropping of rocks ahead, forming a natural shelter with an opening too small for a full-grown bear. They dove for it, Sera scrambling through first, Kael's larger frame following so close she could feel his body heat. The bear arrived seconds later, an enormous sow, easily 600 pounds of enraged muscle and claws. She roared her fury, swiping at the opening, her massive paw missing Kael's leg by inches. They pressed deeper into the shelter, a shallow cave that forced them into uncomfortable proximity. Sera's back hit the stone wall, and Kael's body crowded against her front, his arm braced above her head as the bear continued her assault. This is your fault, Sera hissed, very aware of every point where they touched, his chest against hers, his thigh pressed between her legs, his breath ghosting across her neck. My fault. His voice was low, intimate despite the circumstances. You're the one who suggested trials. I just showed up. You could have avoided her territory. I was busy finding you. His eyes locked onto hers, and in the darkness of the cave, they seemed to glow with their own light. Priorities. The bear roared again, but she was losing interest, her huffing growing more distant as she lumbered away to protect her den. They should have separated immediately. Should have put distance between their bodies the moment the danger passed. Neither moved. Your heartbeat, Kael murmured, tilting his head slightly. I can feel it, racing like a rabbit's. We were just running from a bear, Sera managed, though they both knew that wasn't the whole truth. Were we? His hand came up slowly, giving her every chance to pull away, and trace the line of her jaw. Because I think it started before that. Back in the clearing, when you first saw me. Don't. The word came out desperate rather than commanding. We can't, this isn't. I know. His thumb brushed her lower lip, and her breath caught. You're Blackthorn. I'm Silvercrest. Our packs have been killing each other for 50 years. Your father's blood is on my family's hands, whether we wielded the blade or not. His forehead dropped to rest against hers, and the intimacy of it sent lightning through her veins. And none of that matters to my wolf. Do you know what that's like? To have your instincts betray everything you've been taught to believe. Yes, the confession escaped before she could cage it. From the moment I saw you, I thought I was going insane. Mate bond. He said it like a curse. The rarest, most inconvenient gift the moon could give us. We're not. But her wolf howled in protest at the denial. It's not real. It's just chemistry, pheromones, some biological trick. Then why do I want to burn down the world to keep you safe? His voice had gone rough, nearly a growl. Why does the thought of you in danger make my wolf claw at my insides? Why did I mark that entire trail knowing the bear might follow, just to make sure you could find me? Sera's hands had fisted in his shirt without her permission, torn between pushing him away and pulling him closer. This is impossible. Even if the bond is real, we can't. My pack would exile me. Your pack would do worse. I know. Your father might have killed mine. I know that too. Silver eyes blazed with something fierce and possessive. And I'm still standing here, fighting every instinct that says to claim you right now and damn the consequences. The air between them crackled with electricity. One move, one surrender, and they'd cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. A distant howl shattered the moment. Different from before, higher pitched. A warning. Kael jerked back as if burned. The tokens. We're wasting time. Reality crashed back with brutal clarity. Right. The trial. The 3 sacred tokens they needed to find before dawn, or both their packs lost everything. Can you sense them? Sera asked, forcing her voice steady as she squeezed out of the cave. Moira said they'd call to our wolves. Like a beacon. Kael pointed northwest. That way. Maybe 2 miles. But there's something else. His expression darkened. It doesn't feel right. Too easy, like a trap. Everything about tonight is a trap. Sera started walking, needing distance from the cave and the temptation it represented. We retrieve the tokens, complete the trial, and go back to our separate corners. That's the deal. Is it? He fell into step beside her, and she hated how natural it felt. Because I think we both know this doesn't end at dawn. She didn't answer, because he was right. The mate bond, if that's truly what this was, didn't fade with sunrise. It would pull and burn and demand acknowledgement until one of them broke or they both surrendered. And either option would destroy them. They moved through the thornwood in tense silence, following the pull that grew stronger with each step. Sera's wolf pressed against her skin, desperate to shift, to run properly, to close the distance to Kael in ways that mattered to their kind. But she held firm, even as the bond between them stretched taut as a bowstring. The first token appeared in a clearing lit by filtered moonlight, a silver medallion hanging from a thorn tree, engraved with symbols Sera recognized from Elder Moira's ceremonial robes. But Kael was right about the trap. 3 massive wolves surrounded the tree, their eyes reflecting the moonlight with an unnatural yellow glow. Rogues, packless, lawless, and dangerous beyond measure. Well, Kael said softly, his body tensing for a fight. This just got interesting. The largest rogue snarled, foam flecking its muzzle. And Sera realized that surviving the night meant protecting the one person she was supposed to hate. The one person her soul insisted she could never live without. Chapter 4. The rogues circled slowly, their movements uncoordinated, but no less deadly for it. Sera counted 3, no 4. A fifth emerged from the underbrush, smaller but with eyes that gleamed with feral hunger. "We can't shift," Sera whispered, her hand finding the knife at her belt. "Against 5 wolves. Even a blade felt laughably inadequate." "No," Kael agreed, his voice steady despite the danger. "But they don't know that." He moved before she could ask what he meant. A sharp, aggressive step forward accompanied by a snarl that should have been impossible from a human throat. The sound resonated with dominance, with alpha authority, and the nearest rogue actually flinched. "Back away," Kael commanded, his voice dropping into registers that vibrated through Sera's chest. "This territory is claimed for the trials. Ancient law protects us. Attack, and you'll answer to Elder Moira and every pack in the region." The largest rogue, a grizzled male with a torn ear, paused, intelligence flickering behind the madness in its eyes. Rogues might be packless, but they weren't stupid. They knew the old laws, knew the consequences of interfering with sacred trials. But they were also starving. Sera could see their ribs pressing against mangy fur, could smell the desperation rolling off them in waves. "They're not backing down," she murmured. "They're too hungry. Then we give them a choice." Kael's hand moved to the pouch at his belt. The emergency rations each champion had been given. Food or fight. What's it going to be? He tossed the pouch toward the rogues. It landed in the dirt between them and the thorn tree, dried meat spilling out in a small pile. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then the smallest rogue darted forward, snatching a piece of meat before retreating. The others followed, their formation breaking as hunger overrode aggression. The pack hierarchy dissolved into snapping teeth and selfish feeding, their attention consumed by the unexpected bounty. "Now," Kael said. They moved as one. Sera didn't question it, didn't hesitate, just matched his stride as they sprinted for the thorn tree. Her fingers closed around the silver medallion, the metal cold against her palm. And then they were running again, putting distance between themselves and the rogues. They didn't stop until the sounds of snarling faded completely, until Sera's human lungs screamed for mercy and her legs threatened to give out. Kael caught her elbow as she stumbled, steadying her against a moss-covered boulder. "You gave them your food," she panted. "We have hours until dawn. What if? I wasn't going to let them hurt you." The words were simple, absolute. "I don't care if I starve before sunrise. I wasn't going to let them touch you." The mate bond pulsed between them, warm and undeniable. "Stop saying things like that," Sera whispered. "Stop making this harder than it already is." "Why?" He stepped closer, and she should have moved away. Should have maintained distance, maintained sanity. "Because it's easier to hate me if I act like the enemy?" "Sera, I've been trying to hate you for the last 3 hours. It's not working. Try harder." But her hand was still clutching his forearm, and she couldn't make herself let go. "We can't do this. Even if we wanted to, even if this bond is real. Do you have any idea what would happen? My pack would call me traitor. Your pack would see it as weakness. We'd be exiled at best, killed at worst." "I know." His free hand came up to cup her face, thumb tracing her cheekbone with devastating gentleness. "And I'm still standing here thinking it might be worth it. Don't." Her eyes burned. "Don't make me choose between you and everything I've ever known. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, little wolf. Neither is fate." His forehead touched hers again, that gesture that felt more intimate than any kiss. "But I'll make you a deal. We finish the trials. All 3 nights. And when it's over, when the territory is settled and our packs have no reason to meet again, then we walk away. We ignore this bond, live our separate lives, and pretend tonight never happened." It was the rational choice. The only choice that didn't end in heartbreak or bloodshed. So why did it feel like dying? "Deal," she managed. "Now let's find the other 2 tokens before I do something stupid." His laugh was low and pained. "Too late. I've been doing stupid things since I first caught your scent." They separated, the physical distance a relief and an agony all at once. The second token's pull led them deeper into the thornwood, toward the sound of rushing water. A stream cut through the forest here, its banks slick with moss and treacherous stones. The token hung from a branch overhanging the water, another silver medallion, twin to the first. But reaching it required wading into the stream, and one misstep on those mossy rocks would mean a painful fall into freezing water. "I'll get it," Kael said, already moving forward. "No." Sera caught his arm. I'm lighter, more agile. You'd slip for sure with those broad shoulders. My broad shoulders? Despite everything, amusement flickered across his face. Should I be flattered or insulted? Shut up and spot me. She stepped carefully into the stream, gasping at the cold that immediately soaked through her boots. The current was stronger than it looked, tugging at her ankles, and the rocks beneath her feet shifted treacherously. She focused on balance, on the token swaying just out of reach. Her foot slipped. Kael's hand shot out, gripping her wrist with bruising strength as she teetered over the rushing water. He hauled her backward, pulling her against his chest on the muddy bank, both of them breathing hard. I had it, she protested weakly. You nearly had a concussion. His arms were iron bands around her waist, and he wasn't letting go. New plan. I wade in, you climb on my shoulders, grab the token. We both stay dry and uninjured. That's actually not a terrible idea. Don't sound so surprised. It took coordination they shouldn't have possessed after knowing each other mere hours. But somehow, they moved like they'd done this 1,000 times. Kael braced himself in the stream, knees bent, and Sera climbed onto his shoulders with a grace that would have made Lissa proud. From her elevated position, the token was easy to reach, the medallion slipping free from its branch with a gentle tug. Got it, she said, and Kael carefully waded back to shore. He didn't immediately let her down. Just stood there with her perched on his shoulders, her thighs bracketing his head, his hands warm on her calves. Kael. I know, but he still didn't move. Just one more second. Let me pretend this is our life. Hunting together, working as a team, without the weight of 50 years of bloodshed between us. Sera's throat constricted. She slid down slowly, her body dragging against his until her feet touched the ground. When she turned in his arms, his expression was raw with longing and resignation. The third token, she said, though what she wanted to say was stay, choose me, run away with me and never look back. Northeast. His jaw tightened. And Sera, that one's going to be the worst. I can feel it. Elder Mora's final test won't be about finding a token. It'll be about what we're willing to sacrifice to get it. The pull led them to a ravine carved deep into the forest floor, its edges crumbling and dangerous. At the bottom, perhaps 30 feet down, the third medallion gleamed in a shaft of moonlight, and tied to a tree at the ravine's edge, struggling against her bonds. Lissa. Sera lunged forward, but Kael caught her around the waist. Wait. Look. On the opposite side of the ravine, Dara was similarly bound, her eyes wide with fury as she fought against the ropes. A third figure stood between them. A neutral wolf bearing Elder Mora's mark, holding a knife. Champions, the wolf called out. Your final test. Choose. You may free your own second and retrieve the token together, securing victory for your pack. Or you may free your opponent's second and forfeit your pack's claim to the disputed territory. Choose wisely. Choose quickly. Dawn comes in 2 hours, and these bonds will not hold forever in the thornwood. Whatever hunts these woods will smell their fear. Sera's blood ran cold. That's no choice at all. If I free Lissa, then Dara dies, and I'll hate you for it, Kael finished grimly. And if I free Dara, Lissa dies, and you'll hate me. We both lose everything either way. There has to be another option. There isn't. His voice was hollow. That's the point. Moira's testing whether we'll sacrifice each other's people to save our own. Whether partnership means anything when it costs us everything. Sera stared at Lissa, her friend, her pack sister. The woman who'd taught her to fight, who'd saved Matthias's life more times than anyone could count. Choosing to let her die was unthinkable. But so was asking Kael to sacrifice Dara. What if we both forfeit? She said suddenly. If neither pack gets the territory. Then the trials continue, and Moira sets new challenges even more dangerous than this. Kael's hands tightened on her shoulders. And our packs will demand to know why we failed. They'll suspect exactly what's happening between us. So we're damned no matter what we choose. Yes. He turned her to face him, silver eyes burning with intensity. Unless we choose something they're not expecting. Something that terrifies me more than losing territory or facing pack judgment. What? We choose each other. The words hung in the air like a thrown gauntlet. We free both Lissa and Dara, declare the trial void by mutual choice, and tell our packs the truth. That we're mates, that the bond is real, and that we're taking the old path. Sera's heart stopped. The old path hasn't been invoked in over a century. It means exile from both packs, living as rogues. Living as partners, Kael corrected. Building something new instead of perpetuating old hatreds. It's insane. It's probably suicidal. And it's the only choice my wolf will let me make. She looked at Lissa, then at Dara, then back at Kael. At the impossible man who'd somehow become essential in the space of a few hours. Who made her want things she'd never allowed herself to dream about. Her pack. Her home. Her identity as a Blackthorn. Or him. The enemy. The mate. The future. If we do this, she whispered, there's no going back. We'll be hunted by both sides. Matthias will never forgive me. I know. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. But at least we'll be alive. At least we'll be together. Dawn crept closer, painting the eastern sky with the first hints of gray. And Sera Blackthorn made the choice that would reshape everything. Together, she said. Then she raised her voice to carry across the ravine. We choose the old path. We reject your test, reject the trials, and claim each other as mates under the ancient law. Free them both. Now, the neutral wolf's eyes widened in shock. And somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. Whether in triumph or mourning, Sera couldn't tell. Chapter 5. The neutral wolf stared at them for 3 heartbeats, then slowly cut the ropes binding both Lissa and Dara. So witnessed, he said, his voice carrying the weight of ceremony. By ancient law, the mate bond takes precedence over pack loyalty. The champions have chosen exile and partnership. The trials are void. Elder Moira will be informed. The last word sounded ominous. Lissa scrambled up from the ravine's edge, fury and disbelief warring across her face as she stalked toward Sera. Have you lost your mind? Do you have any idea what you've just done? Saved your life, Sera said quietly. And hers. She nodded toward Dara, who was watching Kael with an expression that might have been respect or might have been pity. By destroying your own. Lissa grabbed Sera's shoulders, shaking her. Matthias will disown you. The pack will exile you. They'll hunt you for this betrayal. You've thrown away everything for a Silvercrest. For my mate. The words felt foreign on Sera's tongue, but also terrifyingly right. The bond is real, Lissa. I felt it the moment I saw him. Bonds can be rejected. Ignored. You chose this. I did. Sera's voice hardened. And I'd do it again. Tell my brother I'm sorry, but I won't apologize for refusing to let you die for pack pride. Lissa's eyes shimmered with unshed tears. You were supposed to be alpha after Matthias. You had a future, a purpose, a family. And now I have a mate. Sera pulled free gently. Go home. Tell Matthias what happened. Tell him. Tell him I understand if he hates me. He'll more than hate you. Lissa's voice broke. He'll mourn you like you died. Because to the Nightshade pack, you just did. She turned and disappeared into the pre-dawn shadows, leaving Sera feeling like she'd been gutted. Dara approached Kael with a warrior's directness. Your father will demand your head for this. You know that, right? Probably. Kael's jaw was set in grim determination. But he'll have to catch me first. Rowan Silvercrest doesn't forgive traitors. Good thing I'm not a traitor, then. I'm following the oldest law we have, the mate bond. Even he can't argue with that without appearing to reject pack tradition. He'll find a way. Dara's expression softened fractionally. For what it's worth, I think you're braver than you are stupid. And that's saying something. She clasped his forearm in a warrior's grip. May the moon watch over you both. You're going to need it. Then she, too, vanished into the forest. The neutral wolf had already gone, taking the 3 tokens with him. The ravine loomed silent and accusatory, witness to the moment Sera and Kael had chosen each other over everything they'd ever known. Well, Kael said into the quiet, that could have gone worse. How? Sera's laugh was brittle. We're homeless, packless, and probably have a dozen wolves hunting us before the sun fully rises. True. He moved to her side, his presence solid and grounding. But we're alive, and we're together. That counts for something. Does it? She turned to face him, suddenly uncertain. In the clearing with the rogues, tangled together in the cave, standing at the ravine's edge. The bond had felt inevitable, undeniable. But now, in the cold light of impending dawn, reality crashed over her like freezing water. Kael, we just met. We've known each other for less than 12 hours. I've destroyed my entire life for someone who might be a stranger tomorrow. You think I'm not terrified? His hand cupped her cheek, thumb brushing away a tear she hadn't realized had fallen. I just exiled myself from my pack, betrayed my father's trust, and threw away my future as Silvercrest Alpha. For a woman whose name I only learned yesterday. But here's what I know. My wolf recognized you. My soul recognized you. And every instinct I have says that choosing you was the only real choice I could have made. What if instinct is wrong? What if this bond is just biology? Pheromones and timing, Anne. Then we'll figure it out together. He pulled her closer, his forehead resting against hers in that gesture that was becoming achingly familiar. We'll be broke, hunted, probably sleeping in caves and stealing chickens for dinner. But we'll be partners. Equals. Building something that belongs to just us. I don't know how to be packless, Sera whispered. I don't know who I am without the Blackthorn name. Then we'll discover it together. His lips brushed her temple, gentle as a promise. Starting now. We need to move. Elder Moira will want to formalize the exile, and I'd rather not face both our packs while we're exhausted and weaponless. Where do we go? I know a place. Neutral territory, far enough from both pack lands that we'll have time to catch our breath. His hand found hers, intertwining their fingers. Trust me. She looked into silver eyes that held fear and determination in equal measure. This man, this enemy, this stranger, this mate, was asking her to trust him with her life. And God's help her, she did. Lead the way. They ran as dawn broke over the thornwood, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Sera's human body screamed with exhaustion, but adrenaline and fear kept her moving. Behind them, she could feel the weight of what they'd left behind. Pack, family, identity. Ahead lay only uncertainty. Kael led them north, away from pack territories, deeper into unclaimed wilderness. They crossed streams to hide their scent, climbed rocky outcroppings that left Sera's hands bleeding, pushed through thorny undergrowth that tore at their clothes and skin. By the time the sun stood high overhead, Sera was stumbling more than running. Kael caught her before she fell, lifting her into his arms despite his own exhaustion. "Put me down," she protested weakly. "I can walk. You can barely stand." He adjusted her weight, continuing forward with grim determination. "Save your pride for when we're safe." Are we ever going to be safe? Honestly? Probably not. His attempt at humor fell flat. But we'll be together. That has to count for something. 20 minutes later, they emerged into a hidden valley. A perfect bowl carved between 3 mountains, dense with forest and centered around a crystalline lake. A small cabin sat at the water's edge, weathered but sturdy, smoke curling from its chimney. "Someone lives here," Sera said. "Someone did. My uncle, my mother's brother. He chose exile 30 years ago for reasons he never explained. Built this place with his own hands, lived off the land, died peacefully last winter." Kael's voice softened. "He left it to me in his will. Called it a refuge for when I got tired of pack politics. He knew you'd need it. Maybe. Or maybe he just understood that sometimes the only way to stay sane is to walk away." He carried her to the cabin door, kicking it open. "Welcome to our new home, little wolf. It's not much, but..." The interior was simple but functional. A main room with a stone fireplace, a kitchen area with a hand pump for water, a ladder leading to a sleeping loft. Furs and blankets covered a large bed visible through the loft opening. Shelves lined the walls, stocked with preserved food, medical supplies, and well-worn books. "It's perfect," Sera breathed. Kael set her down gently, then immediately swayed on his feet. Without the adrenaline of the run, his own exhaustion was catching up. "Sleep," Sera said, catching his arm. "We're both dead on our feet. Everything else can wait." Everything else meant facing what they'd done, meant processing exile and loss, meant figuring out how 2 people who'd been enemies 12 hours ago were supposed to build a life together. But right now, with dawn bleeding into midday and her body screaming for rest, all Sera wanted was to close her eyes and pretend the world outside this valley didn't exist. They climbed to the loft together, too tired for modesty or awkwardness. Kael collapsed onto the bed with a groan, and Sera curled beside him, leaving a careful foot of space between them. "Sera." His voice was rough with exhaustion. "Yeah, I meant what I said. About choosing you. About not regretting it." She rolled to face him, studying the strong lines of his face, the shadows under his eyes, the vulnerability he was letting her see. This man who'd given up everything for her, who'd trusted her instincts over pack loyalty. "I know," she whispered. "I just hope we both still feel that way when we wake up." His hand found hers in the space between them, fingers intertwining. "We will. I promise." Within minutes, exhaustion dragged them both under. And while they slept, tangled together like they'd been doing it for years, The consequences of their choice were unfolding across two pack territories. Nightshade Pack territory. Matthias Blackthorn stood in the great hall, Lys's words still ringing in his ears. Around him, the pack council murmured in shock and fury. Exile, growled Marcus, Sera's cousin. That's the only response. She's betrayed us for a Silvercrest, for the enemy. She saved Lys's life, Matthias said quietly, though rage simmered beneath his carefully controlled exterior. Would you rather your best tracker died for pack pride? I'd rather our future alpha didn't throw away her birthright for a mate bond that might not even be real. Marcus slammed his fist on the table. We look weak now. Every pack in the region will see this as proof that Nightshade is failing, that we can't even control our own blood. Matthias closed his eyes, seeing Sera as a child, wild, fearless, chasing him through the forest with laughter that rang like bells. Seeing her at their father's funeral, face stoic even as tears tracked down her cheeks. Seeing her last night, chin lifted in defiance, amber eyes blazing with determination. Formal exile, he said, the words tasting like ash. Sera Blackthorn is cast out from Nightshade Pack. Her name is struck from our records. Any wolf who aids her faces the same fate. His voice nearly broke. Let it be known, she is no longer my sister. No longer pack. No longer ours to protect or mourn. The council murmured approval. But alone in his father's office later, Matthias let the tears fall. Silvercrest Pack territory. Rowan Silvercrest's roar shook the rafters of the pack house. A mate bond. He rounded on Dara, who stood at rigid attention. My son, my heir, throws away his future for a Blackthorn? For the daughter of the man who nearly destroyed us. The old laws, Dara began. Damn the old laws. Rowan's eyes blazed gold. Kael was supposed to unite this pack, to lead us into prosperity. Instead, he's chosen exile with our sworn enemy. What kind of alpha does that make him? A brave one, Dara said quietly. Sir, with respect, he followed his heart. Isn't that what you always taught him? To trust his instincts, to honor the mate bond above all else. Not when the mate is a Blackthorn. Rowan's hand slammed against the wall. Do you know what this means? The other packs will smell weakness. They'll test our borders, challenge our authority, all because my son couldn't keep his wolf in check. Silence fell, heavy with disappointment and fury. Exile, Rowan finally said, each word clipped. Kael Silvercrest is no longer pack. No longer my son. If he or his mate set foot on Silvercrest land, they'll be treated as rogues, hunted and executed. He looked at Dara, something broken behind his anger. I taught him better than this. You taught him to follow his heart, Dara said softly. He did. Just not in the way you wanted. Back in the hidden valley, Sera woke to find herself plastered against Kael's chest, his arm locked around her waist, their legs tangled together. Late afternoon sun slanted through the loft window, painting everything in gold. She should move. Should put distance between them. Instead, she buried her face against his neck and breathed in the scent that her wolf recognized as home. Hey, Kael rumbled, his hand moving to stroke her hair. Sleep okay? Better than I should have. She pulled back enough to meet his eyes. Kael, I just realized, we're really doing this. We're really alone out here. Terrifying, isn't it? But his smile was gentle. For what it's worth, I'm scared too. Of what? That I won't be enough. That one day you'll wake up and realize what you gave up, and you'll hate me for it. His thumb traced her jawline. That this bond is the only thing holding us together, and when the novelty wears off, we'll be two strangers who destroyed their lives for chemistry. So we figure it out, Sera said, echoing his earlier words. We learn each other. We build something real beyond the bond. Yeah, hope flickered in his silver eyes. Yeah, she kissed him then, soft and tentative, their first real kiss without danger or urgency pressing them forward. He tasted like pine and possibility, like every reckless choice she'd ever made and every dream she'd never dared to voice. When they pulled apart, both breathless, Kael's smile was radiant. Okay, he said. Let's start with the basics. I'm Kael Silvercrest, no wait. Just Kael now. No pack name. I'm 25, I hate winter, I can't cook to save my life, and I've been in love with you since you stood in that clearing and called me arrogant. Sera laughed despite everything. I'm Sera. Just Sera. 23. I love storms, I'm decent with herbs and medicine, and I'm probably insane for trusting you. Definitely insane. He kissed her forehead. But I'll take it. Outside, the sun continued its arc toward sunset, the first night of their new life. And in the distance, wolves began to howl. Hunting calls. Coming closer. Chapter 6. The howls grew louder as darkness claimed the valley. Kael was on his feet instantly, his body tense as he moved to the loft's window. Sera joined him, peering out into the twilight where shadows lengthened like grasping fingers. "How many?" she asked, though her own ears could pick out at least 6 distinct voices. 8, maybe 10. His jaw clenched. "Mixed pack. I'm hearing both Nightshade and Silvercrest tones. They're coordinating the hunt. That's impossible. Our packs haven't worked together in half a century. Apparently mutual hatred of us is stronger than their hatred of each other." Kael's hand found hers, squeezing briefly before he moved toward the ladder. "We need to secure the cabin. If they find us tonight, they'll kill us both." Sera followed him down, her mind racing through defensive options. How well-stocked is this place? Weapons? Supplies? My uncle was paranoid. There's a weapons cache under the floorboards, knives, a crossbow, silver ammunition. He pried up a board near the fireplace, revealing a hidden compartment, and an escape tunnel that leads to the mountains. He always had an exit strategy. Smart man. Sera grabbed a wicked-looking hunting knife, testing its weight. The blade gleamed silver. Lethal to their kind, but necessary. "How long do you think we have?" They're tracking methodically, sweeping the territory in a grid pattern. "Maybe an hour before they reach the valley." He loaded the crossbow with practiced efficiency, his movements betraying military training she hadn't known he possessed. "We have 2 choices. Run now while we have the lead, or make a stand and hope we can convince them we're not worth killing. The second option assumes they came here to talk." "Yeah." His smile was grim. "Which is why I'm voting for option 1. A howl split the night. Much closer now, resonating with fury and promise. Sera's wolf pressed against her skin, desperate to shift and fight or flee. But shifting meant they could be tracked more easily, their scent carrying for miles. "The tunnel," Sera decided. "We take what we can carry and disappear into the mountains. Let them search an empty cabin." They worked in synchronized chaos, stuffing packs with food, water, medical supplies, weapons. Kael grabbed a thick fur cloak and wrapped it around Sera's shoulders. "It gets cold in the high passes," he said, already shrugging into his own. "And we won't be able to risk a fire for days." "Days?" Her stomach dropped. "How far are we running?" "As far as it takes." He cupped her face, silver eyes intense. "Sera, I need you to understand. They're not going to stop. Both our packs want us dead now. We're a symbol of everything they fear. Defiance, change, the breaking of old hatreds. They'll hunt us until we're caught or we make it to territory, so remote they can't follow." "Where?" "The savage lands. 300 miles north, past the last pack territories, into wilderness so brutal even rogues avoid it." His thumb stroked her cheek. "My uncle used to tell stories about wolves who'd gone there, started new packs, built new lives beyond the reach of the old laws. If we can make it there." "If." The word hung heavy between them. Another howl, close enough that Sera could hear the individual voices now. Marcus. She'd recognize her cousin's aggressive tone anywhere. And there, was that Matthias? Her brother had come personally to hunt her down. The realization cut deeper than any blade. "Tunnel. Now." Kael grabbed both packs, moving toward a concealed door in the storage room. The passage beyond was narrow, carved through stone, barely wide enough for them to squeeze through single file. They'd made it perhaps 20 feet when the first crash echoed behind them, the cabin door splintering under coordinated assault. "They're inside," Sera breathed. "Keep moving." Kael pushed her forward, his body between her and pursuit. "Don't stop for anything." The tunnel seemed endless, sloping upward at a punishing angle. Sera's legs burned, her breath coming in ragged gasps as they climbed through absolute darkness. Behind them, muffled shouts suggested the pack had found the tunnel entrance. "Faster," Kael urged. "We need to reach the exit and collapse the passage." Light appeared ahead, blessed, beautiful moonlight streaming through a narrow opening. They burst out onto a mountain ledge, the valley spread below like a painted landscape. The cabin was ablaze with torches as wolves swarmed it like angry ants. Kael immediately turned back to the tunnel entrance, wedging his knife into a support beam. "Help me. If we can bring down this section." Sera added her strength to his, both of them levering against ancient wood. The beam groaned, cracked, and finally gave way with a sound like thunder. Rock and earth cascaded down, sealing the tunnel in a cloud of dust and debris. That won't hold them long, Kael panted. But it might buy us an hour. They ran. The mountain terrain was treacherous. Loose scree, hidden crevasses, drops that would kill even a wolf if they fell. Sera's human form struggled with the altitude, her lungs screaming for oxygen that the thin air couldn't provide. I need to shift, she gasped, stumbling over a rock. I can't keep this pace. Not yet. Once you shift, your scent becomes a beacon. We need more distance first. Kael, I can't. He swept her into his arms without breaking stride, carrying her like she weighed nothing despite his own exhaustion. Then I'll carry you. Just hold on. She wanted to protest, wanted to prove she could handle this. But survival trumped pride. She wrapped her arms around his neck and let him take her weight, trusting him in a way that should have terrified her. They climbed for what felt like hours, the howls behind them sometimes fading, sometimes surging closer. The hunting pack was relentless, coordinated in a way that spoke of careful planning. Finally, as the moon reached its zenith, Kael stumbled into a shallow cave carved into the mountainside. He set Sera down gently, both of them collapsing against the stone wall. We can't stay long, he panted, but we need to catch our breath. Sera nodded, too exhausted for words. Her hands were bleeding from where she'd grabbed rocks to steady herself. Her legs trembled with fatigue. And still the howls continued, distant now but persistent. They're not going to give up, are they? She asked. No. Kael's voice was flat. My father doesn't forgive betrayal. And your brother, Matthias, is thorough. Once he commits to something, he sees it through to the end. She laughed bitterly. Guess I know where I got my stubbornness. Hey! Kael turned her face toward his. We're going to make it. I didn't choose exile with you just to die on a mountain 3 days later. 3 days. Kael, it's been less than 24 hours since we met. Feels like longer. His smile was tired but genuine. Like I've known you forever. Like this was always supposed to happen. The bond. Maybe. Or maybe you're just impossible to forget. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then finally her lips, soft and sweet despite their desperate circumstances. Come on. We can make another few miles before dawn if we push. They pushed. The night blurred into an endless cycle of climbing, running, hiding. Twice they had to scale sheer rock faces, clinging to tiny handholds with bleeding fingers. Once they disturbed a mountain cat that hissed and swiped at them before deciding they weren't worth the effort. And always the howls followed. Dawn found them on a narrow ridge, the world spread out below in a tapestry of forest and stone. Behind them, perhaps 3 miles back, Sera could see movement, wolves still tracking. We need to rest, Kael said, his voice hoarse. Really rest. Not just catch our breath. Where? They're too close. There. He pointed to a waterfall cascading down the mountain face about half a mile ahead. My uncle told me about it. There's a cave behind the falls. The water masks scent and sound. If we can reach it, we might be able to hole up for a few hours. It was their best option. Their only option. They stumbled toward the waterfall, legs moving on pure will rather than strength. The thunder of falling water grew deafening as they approached, mist soaking them within seconds. Behind the cascade, exactly as Kael had described, a cave opened into the mountain. They collapsed inside, the roar of water a barrier between them and the world. Check the packs, Kael said, already digging into his own. See what survived the climb. Most of their supplies had made it. Dried meat, water skins, medical supplies. Sera pulled out the bandages, wordlessly reaching for Kael's hands. His palms were shredded, blood mixing with dirt and rock dust. Let me, she said softly. He didn't argue, just watched as she cleaned and wrapped his wounds with gentle efficiency. When she finished, he took the bandages from her and returned the favor, his touch reverent as he tended to her injuries. We're a mess, Sera observed. We're alive. He tied off the last bandage, then pulled her against his chest. That's what matters. She should have felt trapped, exhausted, hunted, cornered in a cave with a man she barely knew. Instead, wrapped in his arms with the waterfall's roar drowning out the world, she felt inexplicably safe. Tell me something, she murmured against his chest. Something real. Not about packs or exile or survival. Just you. Kael was quiet for a moment, his hand stroking her hair. When I was 8, I found a bird with a broken wing. My father said to leave it. That nature would take its course, that wolves don't save prey. But I couldn't. I kept it hidden in the barn, fed it scraps, splinted its wing with twigs and twine. His voice softened. It took 3 weeks, but it healed. When I released it, my father caught me. He said I'd wasted time on something weak, that an alpha doesn't show mercy to broken things. What did you say? That maybe the world needed more wolves who fixed broken things instead of leaving them to die. He laughed quietly. I got disciplined for that. 3 days of combat training until I could barely stand. But I never regretted it. That bird flew away whole. That mattered more than my father's approval. Sera tilted her head back to look at him. You're a good man, Kael Silvercrest. Just Kael, remember? His smile was crooked. And I'm not sure good is the right word. A good man wouldn't have dragged you into exile. You didn't drag me anywhere. I chose this. She kissed the underside of his jaw. Now tell me something else. Something happy. They spent the next hour trading stories. Childhood memories, favorite foods, embarrassing moments. Slowly, the stranger who'd been her enemy became Kael. The boy who'd saved birds. The young man who'd read poetry in secret. The wolf who'd always felt like he was performing a role rather than living a life. And Sera shared herself in return. The wild child who'd disappeared into forests. The young woman who'd felt caged by expectations. The wolf who'd always wondered if there was more to life than pack politics and old grudges. We're both misfits, Kael observed. Maybe that's why the bond chose us. We were already halfway to exile before we even met. Comforting thought. But she smiled despite their circumstances. They slept then, tangled together on the cave floor with the waterfall's thunder as a lullaby. And for a few precious hours, the world outside ceased to exist. Chapter 7. A scream woke Sera. Her own, trapped in her throat as strong hands shook her. Sera, wake up, it's just a dream. She gasped awake to find Kael's face inches from hers, concern etched into every line. Beyond him, the cave was darker. Late afternoon, judging by the angle of light through the waterfall. Sorry, she managed, her heart still racing. I dreamed they caught us. That Matthias, her voice broke. Hey, Kael pulled her close, his warmth solid and real. We're safe. Still hidden. They haven't found us. Yet. She pulled back, scrubbing her face. How long did we sleep? 6, maybe 7 hours. The sun's already starting to set. He offered her a water skin and a strip of dried meat. We should eat, then move. The hunting pack won't stay in one area forever. They'll widen their search pattern, and I'd rather not be here when they do. Sera forced herself to eat despite her churning stomach. Every bite tasted like ash, but she needed the energy. They both did. Where do we go from here? She asked. The savage lands are still 250 miles away. We can't run that distance without rest supplies. There's a settlement about 40 miles northeast. Exile's End, a village of rogues and outcasts who've made their own community outside pack law. Kael checked his weapons, reloading the crossbow. My uncle used to trade there. If we can reach it, we might be able to resupply, maybe even find allies. Or get betrayed to our packs for a reward. Always a risk. His smile was grim. But what's life without a little gambling? They packed up and slipped out from behind the waterfall as dusk painted the sky in shades of violet and gold. The temperature had dropped significantly, frost already forming on the rocks. Sera's breath misted in the air, her body shivering despite the fur cloak. Cold. Kael moved closer, sharing his warmth. I'm fine. But her teeth chattered, betraying her. Without a word, he stopped and pulled her against him, wrapping his own cloak around them both. Better. We don't have time for this. We make time. You're no good to either of us if you freeze to death. His arms tightened. Besides, I like holding you. Sue me. Despite everything, she laughed. You're ridiculous. You're beautiful. Especially when you're not trying to be tough. Kael. I know. Survival first, feelings later. But he didn't let go immediately. Just, let me have this moment. Let me pretend we're 2 wolves on a romantic mountain getaway instead of exiles running for our lives. She softened, leaning into him. Okay, one moment. They stood there as twilight deepened to night, wrapped in each other's warmth, pretending the world was kind. Then a twig snapped behind them. Kael shoved Sera to the side as a massive gray wolf launched from the shadows. Marcus, his golden eyes blazing with fury. They collided in a tangle of fur and fangs, rolling across the rocky ground. Kael! Sera reached for her knife, but 2 more wolves emerged. Nightshade pack members she recognized from the manor. They circled her slowly, cutting off escape routes. Marcus had Kael pinned, teeth snapping toward his throat. Kael fought in human form, his knife flashing as he tried to create distance. Blood splattered across stone. Whose, Sera couldn't tell. She made her choice in a heartbeat. Her wolf surged forward, bones cracking and reforming as she shifted. The transformation took seconds. Painful, beautiful, necessary. In wolf form, she was faster, stronger, deadlier. Her red-brown fur gleamed in the moonlight as she launched herself at Marcus. She hit him mid-body, her momentum carrying them both away from Kael. Marcus yelped in surprise, twisting to face this new threat. Recognition flashed in his eyes, followed by rage. Traitor, his growl seemed to say. Blackthorn blood, wasted on a Silvercrest. Sera snarled back, baring teeth. She'd never wanted to fight her cousin, had never imagined a scenario where pack loyalty would fracture this completely. But if he wanted to kill Kael, he'd have to go through her first. They clashed in a blur of teeth and claws. Marcus was bigger, stronger, but Sera was faster, more agile. She darted in, snapping at his flanks, then dancing back before he could retaliate. Her training with Lissa paid off as she used speed to offset his brute strength. Behind her, Kael had shifted too, a magnificent black wolf with silver-tipped fur and eyes that burned like molten metal. He tore into the two nightshade wolves with savage efficiency, his combat skills evident even in wolf form. But more howls echoed across the mountains. The rest of the hunting pack had heard the fight. Go! Kael's voice rang in her mind. The mate bond allowing communication even in shifted form. Sera, we can't fight them all. Marcus's teeth closed on her shoulder, piercing fur and skin. Pain lanced through her, hot and vicious. She yelped, twisting free, but blood now marked her trail. Kael appeared at her side, placing himself between her and Marcus. His snarl vibrated with warning. Back. Off. But Marcus didn't back off. Instead, he shifted, bones popping and reforming until he stood human, chest heaving with exertion. You can still come home, Marcus said, his eyes fixed on Sera. Matthias sent me to bring you back. He'll forgive this insanity if you reject the mate bond, renounce the Silvercrest, and accept punishment. You'll be demoted, watched constantly, but you'll live. You'll still be pack. Sera shifted too, ignoring the cold biting her naked skin. And Kael dies. Marcus said it without emotion. That's non-negotiable. His death is the price of your return. Then I'm not going back. Sera. Marcus's expression cracked, showing genuine anguish beneath the anger. Don't be stupid. You think this exile will work. You think love conquers all. You'll be dead within a month, starved, frozen, or killed by rogues. Is that really better than coming home? Home? She laughed bitter. You're hunting me like an animal. Matthias wants me collared and controlled. That's not home. That's a prison. It's pack. Marcus roared. It's family. It's everything our father died to protect. Our father died because of a senseless feud. The words burst from her like a dam breaking. Because someone shot first and asked questions never. Because hate was easier than peace. Well, I'm done. I'm done perpetuating his death with more violence, more hatred, more pointless bloodshed. By running away with a Silvercrest? Marcus's lip curled. That's not honor, Sera. That's cowardice. Kael shifted then, standing beside Sera in human form. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining. Call it what you want, Kael said quietly. We're not going back, either of us. So you can report to your alpha that his sister chose love over pack. And you can tell my father, his voice hardened. Tell him I chose mercy over hate. That I'm building something new instead of maintaining something broken. Rowan Silvercrest says you're already dead, Marcus said. He's disowned you. Struck your name from pack records. In his eyes, he has no son. Pain flickered across Kael's face, quickly masked. Then I guess we're both orphans now. The other howls were closer now, seconds away. Marcus glanced over his shoulder, then back at Sera. For a moment, something like regret softened his features. Run, he said quietly. I'll tell them I lost your trail in the waterfall. But Sera, this is the last mercy you'll get from Nightshade. Next time we meet, I won't hesitate. Neither will I, she whispered. Then they ran. They shifted mid-stride, wolves cutting through the darkness with desperate speed. Behind them, confused shouts suggested Marcus had indeed muddied their trail, buying them precious minutes. But injured and exhausted, with blood leaving a crimson trail through the snow, they couldn't run forever. There, Kael's mental voice pointed toward a cluster of lights in the valley below. Exile's End. If we can just reach the boundary. A wolf burst from the trees ahead, silver-gray fur and ice-blue eyes. Dara. Sera's heart sank. If Kael's second had come personally, it meant Rowan Silvercrest wanted this kill verified. Wanted proof his son was truly gone. But Dara didn't attack. Instead, she shifted, standing naked in the moonlight, her expression unreadable. "I'm supposed to kill you both," she said flatly. "Rowan's orders. But I can't, I won't, raise a weapon against you, Kael. You saved my life twice. Whatever else you are, you're still the man who taught me honor meant more than obedience." "Dara, shut up and listen." She moved closer, pressing a small pouch into Kael's hand. Silver coins, enough to buy supplies in Exile's End. "And this," she handed him a folded paper. "A map. It shows the safe routes through the savage lands, the territories to avoid, and the location of the northern refuge. A community of exiled wolves who might take you in. You're helping us?" Sera couldn't hide her shock. "I'm repaying a debt." Dara's eyes gleamed with moisture. "And maybe I'm tired of watching good wolves die for stupid reasons." She looked at Kael. "Your father is wrong. About you, about exile, about what makes a wolf worthy. But he'll never admit it. So take this chance and run. Build the life you both deserve." "Come with us," Kael said suddenly. "If you're already helping us, you're probably marked as a traitor too." "No." Dara's smile was sad. "My place is with Silvercrest, even if I don't agree with everything they do. But you too, you were never meant for pack life. You're too big for those boxes, too bright for those shadows. So go. And if the moon is kind, maybe one day I'll see you again in better circumstances." She shifted and disappeared into the trees before either of them could respond. "We need to move," Kael said, tucking the pouch and map into his pack. Before the others realized she let us go, they descended toward Exile's End as fast as they dared. Two wolves racing against dawn, against pursuit, against the weight of everything they'd lost and everything they still might lose. The village appeared gradually. Wooden buildings clustered around a central square, smoke curling from chimneys, the warm glow of firelight promising safety. A rough wall surrounded the settlement, manned by guards who watched their approach with wary eyes. "State your business," one called out as they shifted to human form at the gate. "Sanctuary," Kael said simply. "We're exiled mates seeking safe passage to the savage lands." The guards' eyes narrowed, taking in their wounds, their exhaustion, the desperation etched into every line of their bodies. "Exiled from where?" "Silvercrest and Nightshade," Sera said. "Please. There's a hunting pack maybe 20 minutes behind us. We just need a place to rest, resupply. You're the ones." The guard's expression shifted to something like awe. The mates who chose each other over the biggest feud in pack history. Words already spread. "You're either the bravest wolves alive or the stupidest." "Probably both," Kael admitted. "Do we get sanctuary or not?" The guard studied them for a long moment, then nodded. "For 3 days. That's the law here. We grant sanctuary to any exile for 3 days, no questions asked. After that, you're on your own." He opened the gate. "And if your hunting pack shows up asking about you, we've never heard your names." Exile's End doesn't cooperate with pack politics. Relief nearly buckled Sera's knees. They stumbled through the gate into the village, where curious faces peered from windows and doorways. An older woman approached, her hair silver with age, her eyes kind. "Come," she said simply. "You look like you could use food, medical attention, and about 48 hours of sleep. I'm Alara. I run the refuge house for new exiles." She led them to a small cottage at the village edge, warm and clean, with a fire already burning in the hearth. Medical supplies lined the shelves, and a pot of stew bubbled over the fire, filling the air with the scent of herbs and meat. "Sit," Alara commanded. "Eat. Let me tend those wounds." As the older woman cleaned and bandaged Sera's shoulder, checking Kael's various injuries with practiced efficiency, Sera finally let herself relax. Just a fraction. Just enough to acknowledge how close they'd come to dying tonight. Kael's hand found hers across the small table, squeezing gently. "We made it," he said quietly. "To Exile's End. Not to safety. One step at a time, little wolf." He raised her hand to his lips, kissing her knuckles. "We're alive. Together. That's enough for tonight." Alara handed them bowls of stew, watching them with keen interest. "You two have stirred up quite a hornet's nest. Both Silvercrest and Nightshade have put out kill orders. There's even a bounty, 10,000 in silver for proof of your deaths. That much. Sera's stomach churned. That much. Alara's smile was grim. You're not just exiles, you're symbols. Proof that the old ways can be challenged, that mates can choose each other over pack loyalty. Every alpha in the region sees you as a threat to their authority. So we're targets, Kael said flatly. For everyone. For now. But here's the thing about being a symbol. Alara leaned forward, her eyes intense. You can be a symbol of fear, or you can be a symbol of hope. Right now you're running, hiding, acting like criminals who deserve their exile. But what if you did something different? Like what? Sera asked. Like proving exile doesn't mean death. Like reaching the northern refuge and building a life so good that other wolves start questioning whether pack loyalty is worth the price. Alara's grin was fierce. Be the wolves who made it, who thrived, who showed everyone that love can be stronger than hate, and choice can be stronger than tradition. That's how you win. Not by hiding, by living so well that you make them question everything. Sera looked at Kael and saw her own thoughts reflected in his silver eyes. 3 days, he said. We rest, resupply, and plan. Then we make the run for the northern refuge. And we don't stop until we're so far from pack lands that our names become legend. Together, Sera added. Always, Kael confirmed. Outside, the hunting pack's howls echoed across the valley. Close, but not close enough. For tonight they were safe. And tomorrow, they'd start building a future worth fighting for. Chapter 8. The 3 days in exile's end passed in a blur of healing, planning, and learning what it meant to exist outside pack structure. Sera woke on the second morning to find Kael already awake, sitting by the window and watching the village come to life. Early risers moved through the streets. Wolves without pack markings, humans who'd fled their own communities, even a few fey-touched individuals whose pointed ears caught the dawn light. It's strange, Kael said without turning, seeing so many rogues living together peacefully. My father always said wolves without packs became animals, violent, unstable, dangerous. Mine said the same. Sera moved to join him, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders against the morning chill. But look at them. They're just living, working, trading, raising children, building something new from the ashes of what they lost. Makes you wonder what else our packs lied about. The thought sat heavy between them. That afternoon, Alara took them to meet the village council, a group of 5 exiles who'd been here longest and helped maintain order. They gathered in a building that served as both tavern and meeting hall, the air thick with pipe smoke and the scent of ale. So you're the infamous mates, said a grizzled man named Garrett, his face mapped with scars. The ones who started a war between Silvercrest and Nightshade just by existing. We didn't start anything, Sera said carefully. We just refused to continue it. Semantics. But Garrett's smile was approving. Either way, you've got guts. And enemies. Lots of enemies. Word is, both your former alphas are offering rewards to any rogue who brings proof of your deaths. Makes you a liability to anyone who shelters you. We're leaving in 24 hours, Kael said. We're not asking for permanent sanctuary, just supplies and information about the northern routes. Which we'll provide, said another council member, a sharp-eyed woman named Thea. But first, we need something from you. Call it payment for sanctuary. Sera tensed. What kind of payment? Information. You both come from major packs. You know their patrol patterns, their weaknesses, their resources. That intelligence would be valuable too. No. Kael's voice was flat. We won't betray our former packs. Exile doesn't make us traitors. Doesn't it? Thea leaned forward. They've exiled you, put prices on your heads, sent hunting parties to kill you. Why do you owe them loyalty? Because they're still our families, Sera said quietly. My brother, my cousin. They're following orders they believe are right. I won't put them in danger just to make my own life easier. Silence stretched across the table. Then Garrett laughed, a rough, approving sound. You've got principles. Rare quality in exiles. Most of us ran because we were selfish, cowardly, or just too broken to stay. But you too. You're different. He stood, extending his hand. You'll get your supplies, no strings attached. And Thea, leave them alone. These wolves have honor. That's worth protecting. Thea didn't look pleased, but she nodded curtly. That evening, as Sera and Kael prepared their gear for the final leg of their journey, a commotion erupted in the village square. They emerged from Alara's cottage to find a crowd, gathering around a young wolf, barely 18, bleeding from a dozen wounds, his clothes shredded. Hunting party, he gasped as Alara rushed to tend his injuries. 3 miles south. Mixed pack, Silvercrest and Nightshade working together. They're sweeping every rogue settlement, searching for. His eyes found Sera and Kael. For you. They're killing anyone who won't give you up. Horror clenched Sera's stomach. People are dying because of us? 3 so far, the young wolf confirmed. Rogues who refuse to talk. Your packs aren't taking chances, they're making examples. Kael's face had gone white. How many in the hunting party? 15. Maybe 20. Led by a Nightshade Alpha and a Silvercrest warrior with one eye. They said they won't stop until they find you, even if they have to burn every rogue settlement between here and the mountains. Sera's blood turned to ice. Matthias, my brother is leading the Nightshade contingent. And Rowan himself for Silvercrest. Kael's hands fisted. My father came personally. They'll be here by dawn, Garrett said grimly. We can fight. We've got 40 wolves here who can shift, but against a coordinated pack assault, we'd lose. Badly. Then we leave now. Sera was already moving, grabbing their packs. If we're gone before they arrive, you can tell them truthfully that we're not here. They'll track you, Thea protested. You're leaving a trail straight to the northern refuge. You'll lead them right to the only safe haven left. So we don't go to the northern refuge. Kael's expression was resolute. We go somewhere else, somewhere unpredictable. We split up if we have to, create false trails, do whatever it takes to draw them away from innocent wolves. Split up. Sera's heart lurched. Kael, no. She's right. You're stronger together, Alara interrupted. The mate bond gives you advantages rogues don't have. Communication, coordination, enhanced healing when you're close. Splitting up would be suicide. Then what do we do? Sera asked desperately. We can't let people die for us. We can't lead our packs to the northern refuge. And we can't keep running forever. Eventually, exhaustion will kill us even if they don't. You face them, Garrett said quietly. You call a parley, meet your packs on neutral ground, and you make them see reason. They won't listen, Kael said flatly. My father sees me as a traitor. Sera's brother sees her as a liability. There's no reasoning with that. Maybe not. Alara's expression was thoughtful. But there's something your packs fear more than your defiance. They fear what you represent. Proof that the old ways aren't the only ways. That wolves can choose their own paths. If you could show them that exile hasn't destroyed you, that you're thriving despite everything they threw at you. They'd have to acknowledge we were right, Sera finished slowly. That we were strong enough to survive without pack, which means other wolves could too. It would undermine everything they believe about pack hierarchy and loyalty. Exactly. Alara smiled. You want to end this hunt? Show them you're not victims. Show them you're pioneers. How? Kael demanded. We're 2 exhausted wolves with nothing but the clothes on our backs and a death sentence hanging over us. You issue a challenge, Garrett said. Ancient law, the same law you invoked during the trials. You call for a final reckoning, champions against champions, with the victor's truth acknowledged by all. If you win, both packs must honor your exile and cease pursuit. If they win, he shrugged. You're already dead anyway. What do you have to lose? Everything, Sera thought. Their fragile new life, their hard-won freedom, the tentative hope they'd started to build. But the alternative was letting innocents die, was running until they collapsed, was living as fugitives forever. We do it, she said. We challenge them to meet us on neutral ground at dawn. One final trial to settle this. Kael looked at her, silver eyes intense. You're sure? Because once we make this challenge, there's no backing down. Win or die trying. I'm sure. She took his hand, drawing strength from the mate bond thrumming between them. We didn't choose exile to spend our lives running. We chose it to be free. Time to prove we deserve that freedom. The message went out within the hour, carried by neutral wolves loyal to exile's end, delivered to both Silvercrest and Nightshade hunting parties with identical terms. Dawn, the Heartstone. Champions face champions in trial by combat. Victory earns acknowledgement and peace. Defeat earns death. No pack interference. Ancient law binding. Come alone or don't come at all. The night crawled by with agonizing slowness. Sera and Kael made what preparations they could, sharpened weapons, reviewed combat strategies, ate and rested though neither had much appetite or hope of real sleep. I need to tell you something, Kael said as midnight approached, the 2 of them sitting by the fire in Alara's cottage. In case tomorrow doesn't go our way. Don't. Sera pressed her fingers to his lips. Don't say goodbye. We're winning tomorrow. Sera. No. She moved to straddle his lap, framing his face with her hands. Listen to me. We've survived impossible odds for 3 days straight. We've outrun hunting parties, faced down rogues, climbed mountains, and found allies in the most unlikely places. You think I'm going to let some combat trial take that away from us? It's not about letting it happen. Then we make sure it doesn't. She kissed him fiercely, pouring every ounce of determination into the gesture. We fight together. We win together. And when the sun rises tomorrow, we walk away from that clearing as free wolves who earned the right to live our own lives. His arms came around her waist, holding her close. When did you get so fierce? I've always been fierce. You just bring it out in me. She rested her forehead against his. Promise me something. No matter what happens tomorrow, no matter what our packs say or do, you won't regret choosing me, even if it costs us everything. Sera. His voice was raw with emotion. Choosing you was the first real choice I ever made. Everything before that was following someone else's script. My father's, my pack's, traditions. But you're mine. My choice, my mate, my future. I could lose everything else and still count myself lucky. Good. She kissed him again, slower this time. Because I feel the same way. About you. About us. About this insane, impossible, beautiful thing we're building. They made love that night with a desperation born of uncertainty. Mapping each other's bodies like terrain they might never see again. Memorizing the taste and feel and sound of each other. And when they finally slept, tangled together beneath borrowed furs, they dreamed of victory. Dawn came too soon. They dressed in silence, Sera in fitted leather that allowed movement, Kael in dark clothes that wouldn't show blood. They armed themselves with the weapons Exile's end provided. Knives, a short sword for Kael, a lightweight staff for Sera that doubled as both weapon and walking stick. Alara met them at the door with bread, dried meat, and water skins. For after, she said firmly. Because you're coming back. Thank you, Sera whispered, embracing the older woman who'd shown them such unexpected kindness. For everything. Thank me by living well. Alara's eyes gleamed with moisture. Show them what freedom looks like. The walk to the Heartstone took an hour. Time enough for Sera's nerves to fray and her resolve to solidify. Kael walked beside her in silence, occasionally squeezing her hand, offering strength through the mate bond that connected them. The clearing appeared as the sun crested the horizon, painting the ancient monolith in shades of gold and crimson. And waiting there on opposite sides of the stone, 2 packs, 20 wolves each, arranged in rigid formation. Matthias stood at the head of the Nightshade contingent, his golden eyes finding Sera across the distance. Pain flickered across his face before his alpha mask slammed back into place. Kael Silvercrest commanded the opposing side, his scarred face set in harsh lines. Kael's father looked older than Sera remembered from the first trial, as if hunting his own son had aged him years in mere days. And between the two groups, standing at the Heartstone, Elder Moira, her white ceremonial robes stark against the dawn. Champions, she called out, her voice carrying. You've invoked the ancient right of trial by combat to settle a blood dispute. Both packs have agreed to terms. If you win, your exile is honored and all pursuit ceases. If your champions win, she looked at Matthias and Rowan, you may claim justice as you see fit. Who are their champions? Kael asked, though Sera suspected they both knew. Matthias stepped forward. I am. As am I, Rowan said, moving to join his former enemy. Father and brother. Alpha and Alpha. The 2 men who'd shaped Sera and Kael's lives would now decide if those lives could continue. This is your last chance, Matthias said, his voice carrying across the clearing. Sera, renounce this mate bond. Come home. I'll find a way to protect you. I don't need protection, Matthias. I need freedom. She moved to stand at the center of the clearing, Kael at her side. We're ready. Let's finish this. Rowan's expression was granite. Kael, you've shamed our bloodline. Betrayed everything I taught you. Do you have any final words before I correct my mistake in raising you? Kael's hand found Sera's, their fingers intertwining. Just one thing, Father. I forgive you. For not understanding. For choosing pride over love. For letting hate blind you to what really matters. His voice softened. And I hope someday, you'll forgive yourself for what you're about to try to do. Something flickered in Rowan's eyes, quickly buried beneath fury. Combat begins at first blood, Moira announced, and ends when one side yields or dies. The mate bond pair fights as one unit. Both alphas must be defeated for victory. She raised her staff. May the moon judge your worth. The staff slammed down, and the final battle began. Chapter 9. Matthias moved first. He didn't shift. Staying human meant better strategy, more control. His combat style was textbook Nightshade. Calculated, precise, exploiting every opening. The blade in his hand gleamed silver, and Sera's stomach twisted at the realization that her brother had come prepared to kill. Rowan circled from the opposite direction, his movements those of a veteran warrior. Between the two alphas, Sera and Kael were flanked, outnumbered in experience and sheer combat prowess. Split them up, Kael murmured through the mate bond, his mental voice steady despite the circumstances. I'll take my father. You handle Matthias. We can't let them coordinate. Kael, your father is. I know what he is. His silver eyes flashed. Trust me. Sera didn't have time to argue. Matthias lunged, his blade aimed for her center mass. She twisted, bringing her staff up to deflect, the impact vibrating through her arms. They'd sparred countless times as children. She knew his tells, his patterns, the slight shift of weight before he struck. But he knew hers too. His boots swept her legs out from under her. She rolled, avoiding the follow-up strike that would have ended the fight immediately, and came up swinging. Her staff connected with his ribs. Not hard enough to break anything, but enough to create distance. You've gotten better, Matthias acknowledged, circling. Lissa taught you well. She taught me to survive wolves who underestimate me. Sera adjusted her grip. I don't want to hurt you, Matthias. Then yield. His expression was carved from stone. Come home. Renounce him. Live. Living isn't the same as surviving. She feinted left, struck right, forcing him back. You taught me that. After Dad died, you said the pack survives by adapting, by choosing life over tradition when tradition would kill us. That's different. How? She pressed the attack, staff blurring. You adapted when you had to break old alliances, when you had to make peace with packs Dad would have fought. But when I adapt by choosing a mate over pack politics, suddenly I'm the traitor. Behind her, Kael and Rowan clashed with brutal intensity, the sound of blade against blade ringing across the clearing. She wanted to look, wanted to make sure Kael was holding his own, but Matthias demanded her full attention. His knife sliced through her defenses, drawing a line of blood across her shoulder. First blood. The trial was officially engaged. No stopping now except through victory or death. I'm trying to save your life, Matthias roared, his alpha presence pressing against her like a physical weight. Do you think exile is freedom? You'll be hunted forever. Every rogue settlement will see you as a liability. You'll have no home, no safety, no future. I'll have him. The words burst from her with raw honesty. I'll have a mate who chose me over power, who sees me as a partner, not a prize or a burden, who makes me feel alive instead of caged. She swept low, almost catching his ankle. When was the last time you felt that, Matthias? When was the last time you did something because your heart demanded it, not because pack law required it? His expression cracked. Just for a moment, something vulnerable bleeding through. You don't understand what you're asking me to accept. I'm asking you to let me go. Her voice broke. I'm asking you to trust that I know my own heart, my own path. I'm asking you to be my brother instead of my alpha. I can't be both. Not when being alpha means killing the man I love. They froze, both breathing hard, weapons poised. In Matthias's eyes, Sera saw a war being fought. Duty against affection, tradition against love, the alpha against the brother. Then his gaze flicked past her, and his expression shifted to horror. Sera spun to find Kael on his knees, Rowan's blade pressed to his throat. Blood streaked Kael's face from a gash above his eye, and his breathing came in ragged gasps. Yield, Rowan commanded, his voice emotionless. Acknowledge your failure, and I'll make it quick. No. Kael's silver eyes blazed with defiance despite his position. I won't yield. I won't renounce her. And I won't apologize for choosing love over your hatred. Then you'll die. Wait. Sera started forward, but Matthias caught her arm. Don't, her brother warned. If you interfere, you forfeit. They'll kill you both. I won't watch him die. Sera. Kael's voice rang across the clearing, steady despite everything. I love you. Whatever happens, that was real. That was worth it. Rowan's blade pressed harder, drawing blood. And something inside Sera snapped. The shift took her before conscious thought. Bones cracking, fur erupting, power flooding her system as her wolf surged forward with singular purpose. protect mate. She tore free from Matthias's grip and launched herself at Rowan with every ounce of speed and fury she possessed. She hit the older alpha mid-body, her momentum carrying them both away from Kael. They rolled across the ground in a tangle of fur and fangs. Rowan had shifted too, his wolf massive and battle-scarred, easily twice her size. But Sera fought with the desperate ferocity of a mate protecting her bond. She was faster, more agile, and she'd been holding back against Matthias. Now, facing the man who wanted to kill Kael, she held nothing in reserve. Her teeth found his shoulder, tearing through muscle. He yelped, twisting to throw her off, but she clung like a burr. Behind them, she heard Kael shift too, heard his snarl of rage as he turned on Matthias. The clearing descended into chaos. 4 wolves locked in brutal combat, circling and striking with lethal intent. Sera felt Rowan's claws rake her flank, felt pain bloom hot and urgent. She retaliated by going for his throat. Not to kill, just to subdue, to make him yield. A massive weight slammed into her side. Matthias, his golden wolf form, tackling her away from Rowan. They tumbled across the clearing, and when they came up, Matthias had her pinned. Stop, his voice rang through pack bonds she thought she'd severed. Sera, stop. You can't win this. You're going to get yourself killed. Then kill me, she snarled back. Because I'm not letting you hurt him. Matthias's jaws hovered inches from her throat. One bite. That's all it would take. One quick strike and his sister, his responsibility, his family, would be gone forever. His teeth pressed against her fur, and didn't bite down. I can't, he whispered through the bond. Sera, I can't do this. I can't watch you die for him, and I can't be the one to kill you. Relief flooded through her, followed immediately by terror. Because across the clearing, Kael and Rowan were still fighting, and Kael was losing. The younger wolf was skilled, but Rowan had decades of combat experience. Blood matted Kael's black fur, and he was slowing, favoring his left side. Let me up, Sera begged. Matthias, please. I know you don't understand this bond, but it's real. If he dies, part of me dies too. I won't survive losing him. Matthias's weight shifted. Released. He moved aside, letting her scramble to her feet. Go, he said quietly. Before I remember, I'm supposed to be alpha. Sera didn't hesitate. She launched herself at Rowan again, this time coordinating with Kael through the mate bond. They moved as one unit. When Rowan focused on Sera, Kael struck from behind. When Rowan turned on Kael, Sera attacked his flanks. The older alpha was powerful, but he couldn't fight both of them simultaneously. Slowly, methodically, they wore him down. A bite here, a slash there, forcing him to defend rather than attack. Finally, Kael managed to lock his jaws around Rowan's throat, not crushing, just holding. A position of dominance, of victory. Rowan could have kept fighting, could have injured Kael in the process, but it would have been suicide. The Silvercrest alpha went still. Yield, Kael demanded through the bond all wolves shared. Father, please. Yield. I don't want to kill you. For a long moment, nothing happened. The entire clearing held its breath. Then Rowan shifted back to human form, forcing Kael to release him. The older man knelt in the dirt, blood streaming from a dozen wounds, defeat etched into every line of his face. I yield, he said hoarsely. The trial is yours. Kael shifted too, standing over his father, chest heaving. It didn't have to be this way. You could have let us go. And admit I was wrong? Rowan's laugh was bitter. That the son I raised values love over duty? That everything I taught you about strength and leadership was a lie? It wasn't a lie. Kael extended his hand. But it wasn't the whole truth either. Real strength is knowing when to fight and when to let go. Real leadership is admitting when tradition needs to change. Rowan stared at the offered hand, but didn't take it. You're still exiled. This trial changes nothing about that. I know. Kael lowered his hand. But now you have to honor it. No more hunting parties. No more kill orders. You let us build our lives in peace. And if other wolves see your example and choose exile over pack loyalty, then maybe it's time to ask why they're choosing exile. Kael turned away from his father, moving towards Sera. Maybe it's time to ask if pack loyalty is worth the price you're demanding. Sera had shifted back to human form, standing beside her brother. Matthias looked haunted, his golden eyes moving between her and Kael. You really love him, Matthias said. Not a question. More than I ever thought possible, Sera confirmed. I know it's inconvenient. I know it complicates your politics and threatens your authority. But it's real, Matthias. as real as anything I've ever felt. Her brother was quiet for a long time. Then he did something that shocked everyone in the clearing. He knelt. I, Matthias Blackthorn, Alpha of Nightshade Pack, acknowledge the mate bond between Sera Blackthorn and Kael Silvercrest. His voice carried across the clearing, formal and binding. I recognize their exile as honorable. Their choice is valid under ancient law. Any wolf who pursues them pursues an enemy of Nightshade Pack. Gasps rippled through the Nightshade wolves. You dare. Rowan struggled to his feet, fury rekindling. You'd protect them? I'd honor my sister's choice. Matthias stood, meeting Rowan's glare without flinching. Something you clearly can't do for your son. But that's between you and your conscience. Nightshade Pack will not pursue these mates further. That is my word as Alpha, witnessed by Elder Moira and the assembled packs. Elder Moira stepped forward, her expression unreadable. The trial is complete. The mates have proven their worth through combat and earned acknowledgement from one Alpha. Rowan Silvercrest, do you honor the trial's outcome? Every eye turned to Kael's father. The older man looked at his son. Really looked at him, perhaps for the first time since the exile began. Kael stood tall despite his injuries, one arm wrapped around Sera's waist, defiance and hope warring in his silver eyes. I honor it, Rowan finally said, each word costing him. The hunt ends. The exile stands. But Kael, his voice cracked. Don't come back. Don't send word. You made your choice. Now live with it. Pain flashed across Kael's face, but he nodded. Goodbye, father. Rowan turned and walked away, his pack following. Within moments, the Silvercrest contingent had vanished into the forest, leaving only churned earth and blood-stained grass as evidence they'd been there at all. Matthias approached Sera slowly, as if she might bolt. Are you happy? I don't know yet, she admitted. Ask me in a year, when we've built something real. Where will you go? North. The savage lands. There's a refuge there for exiles. Wolves building something new. She took her brother's hand. Matthias, I don't hate you. I never could. But I can't be who you need me to be. I can't be the dutiful sister who lives her life for the pack. I know. He pulled her into a fierce hug. I'm sorry. For everything. For trying to control you. For sending hunters. For not trusting you to know your own heart. You were being Alpha, she whispered against his shoulder. I understand. Maybe. He pulled back, studying her face like he was memorizing it. But I should have been your brother first. That's my failure, not yours. He released her and turned to Kael, extending his hand. Take care of her. And if you don't, exile won't protect you from me. Kael clasped his hand firmly. I will. You have my word. Matthias nodded once, then walked away. The Nightshade wolves followed, Marcus shooting Sera one last conflicted look before disappearing into the trees. And then they were alone, Sera and Kael, bloodied and exhausted, standing in a clearing that had witnessed the end of their old lives. We did it, Sera breathed. We actually did it. We're free. Kael pulled her close, heedless of their injuries and the blood streaking both their bodies. Truly legally, undeniably free. Elder Moira approached, her ancient eyes kind. You've earned something rare today, the right to choose your own path. Use it wisely. Build something worthy of the price you paid. We will, they said in unison. The elder smiled. I believe you. Now go, before I decide to lecture you about the paperwork this trial just created. They left the clearing hand in hand, walking toward whatever future they could build together. Behind them, the Heartstone stood silent witness to the moment two wolves chose love over legacy. And ahead, the savage lands waited with all their promise and danger. But for the first time since the trials began, Sera felt something she hadn't dared hope for. Peace. Chapter 10. The journey north took 12 days. 12 days of walking through wilderness, so remote that even the wind seemed to forget the taste of civilization. 12 days of hunting together, sleeping beneath the stars, learning the rhythms of each other's bodies and hearts without pack politics or danger pressing at their heels. Sera found herself laughing more, genuine, unguarded laughter that echoed through pine forests and across frozen streams. Kael sang old songs his mother had taught him before she died, his voice rough but earnest, filling the silence with melodies that spoke of home and belonging. They were building something. Not just surviving, actually building. Tell me about the northern refuge, Sera said on the 8th night, curled against Kael's chest as their fire crackled nearby. What do you know about it? Not much. My uncle's stories mostly. Kael's fingers traced lazy patterns on her shoulder. He said it was founded by exiles 50 years ago, wolves who'd been cast out for various reasons. Forbidden matings, political disagreements, crimes that didn't warrant death. They built a settlement in a valley so isolated that most packs don't even know it exists. How many wolves? Maybe 200? They're self-sufficient, grow their own food, raise livestock, trade with human settlements when necessary. No alpha structure, no pack hierarchy. Just wolves choosing to live together in peace. Sounds like a fantasy. Maybe. He kissed the top of her head. Or maybe it's exactly what we need. A place to figure out who we are without someone telling us who we should be. Sera tilted her head back to look at him. Who do you want to be? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. His silver eyes reflected firelight. I spent my whole life being groomed to be alpha. Learning combat, politics, strategy. Everything my father thought I'd need to lead. But I never wanted it. I just didn't know I was allowed to want something different. And now, his smile was slow and genuine. I want to build things. Houses, furniture, tools, things that last, that matter. I want to wake up next to you every morning and know that we chose this. Life instead of having it chosen for us. He paused, vulnerability flickering across his face. I want to be a father someday. To raise children who know they're allowed to choose their own paths. Sera's breath caught. They'd been careful. Herbs and timing, preventing conception while their lives were in constant upheaval. But hearing him speak about children, about a future that extended beyond tomorrow's survival. I want that too, she whispered. Someday, when we're settled, when we've built something stable. I want to raise wolves who know love is stronger than duty, who understand that honor means choosing what's right instead of what's easy. Then we'll make it happen. He kissed her properly this time, slow and deep and full of promise. Together, they made love that night with a tenderness born of security rather than desperation. Mapping each other's bodies not to memorize them before potential loss, but to celebrate the future they were claiming. On the 12th day, the northern refuge appeared. The valley opened before them like a cupped hand, protected on 3 sides by mountains, the 4th opening onto a river that sparkled in the afternoon sun. Fields of winter wheat stretched across the valley floor, interspersed with livestock pens and clusters of buildings. Smoke curled from chimneys, and Sera could hear children's laughter carried on the wind. It's real, she breathed. It's actually real. Welcome to your new home, little wolf. Kael squeezed her hand. Ready. They descended into the valley, drawing curious looks from wolves working the fields. A group of children stopped their game to stare, whispering excitedly. By the time Sera and Kael reached the main settlement, a small crowd had gathered. An older woman emerged from the largest building, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, with the bearing of someone accustomed to authority without demanding it. Well, she said, looking them over with frank assessment. You must be the infamous mates. Word of your trial reached us 3 days ago. A raven from Exile's End brought news. I'm Helena, one of the council members here. Welcome to the Northern Refuge. Thank you, Sera said. We don't want to be a burden. We'll work, contribute however we can. Everyone works here. Helena's smile was warm. That's how this place survives. But first, you need food, medical attention, and probably about 3 days of uninterrupted sleep. Come, we'll get you settled, and tomorrow you can meet the rest of the council. She led them through the settlement, pointing out various buildings. The communal hall where meals were shared, the healing house where a wolf named Iris tended injuries and illnesses, the workshops where various crafts were practiced. Everywhere Sera looked, she saw wolves living together without the rigid structure of pack hierarchy. No alpha dominance games, no submission displays, just individuals cooperating because it benefited everyone. Helena stopped at a small cabin on the settlement's edge. This belonged to one of our founders. He passed last winter. It's yours now if you want it. Needs some repairs, and the roof leaks when it rains, but it's solid enough. Sera stepped inside and immediately fell in love. The main room was simple but functional. A fireplace, a rough table, shelves waiting to be filled. A ladder led to a sleeping loft, and through the back door, she could see a small garden plot waiting for spring planting. It's perfect, she said, voice thick with emotion. Good. Helena squeezed her shoulder. You've earned it. Now rest, we'll talk more tomorrow. After she left, Sera and Kael stood in their new home, looking at each other with identical expressions of disbelief and joy. We did it, Kael said softly. We actually made it. We're here. Sera moved into his arms, burying her face against his chest. We're safe. We're free. We're home. Home, he repeated, the word reverent. I liked the sound of that. The weeks that followed fell into a rhythm Sera had never known existed. Mornings meant work. Kael joined a crew repairing buildings and constructing new ones, his hands becoming calloused and skilled. Sera apprenticed with Iris, learning healing arts that went beyond basic first aid. Her talent with herbs and medicine blossomed under proper instruction, and she found deep satisfaction in mending injuries, easing pain, bringing comfort to the sick and wounded. Afternoons brought community. Shared meals in the communal hall, where stories were exchanged and friendships forged. Sera learned the histories of her neighbors. Jenna, who'd been exiled for refusing an arranged mating. Marcus, not her cousin but a wolf with the same name, who'd challenged his alpha's cruelty and been cast out. Theron and Lyra, mates from rival packs who'd chosen each other over bloodlines. Every exile had a story. Every story was one of choosing authenticity over conformity, love over fear, freedom over security. We're all misfits here, Jenna said one evening, sharing ale with Sera after a long day. Wolves who didn't quite fit in our pack's boxes. But together, we make something beautiful. You really think so? Sera asked. No pack structure, no alpha to maintain order. Doesn't that worry you? Why would it? We maintain our own order. Everyone contributes, everyone has a voice, and disputes get settled by council discussion instead of dominance fights. Jenna's smile was fierce. Pack structure worked for our ancestors, but maybe it's not the only way. Maybe we're evolving into something better. Evenings belonged to Kael. They'd return to their cabin, no longer empty, now filled with furniture Kael built and herbs Sera dried and small touches that made it theirs. They'd cook together, eat by firelight, talk about their days, or simply exist in comfortable silence. And at night, wrapped in each other's arms, they'd make love and sleep and dream of futures that felt suddenly, impossibly within reach. 2 months after their arrival, Sera realized she'd missed her cycle. She told herself it was stress, adjustment to a new environment, the herbs she'd been working with. But when the second month passed with the same absence, she couldn't deny the truth. She found Iris in the healing house, crushing herbs with methodical precision. I need to know, Sera said without preamble. If I'm pregnant. Iris looked up, her experienced eyes taking in Sera's expression. How late? 2 months. Any other symptoms? Nausea, fatigue, heightened senses. Now that Iris mentioned it, yes. The past few weeks, Sera had been exhausted despite sleeping well. Certain smells made her stomach turn. And yesterday, she'd heard a conversation from across the settlement with impossible clarity. All of those, Sera admitted. Iris smiled gently. Then I'd say congratulations are in order. You're expecting, Sera. Probably about 10 weeks along, given what you're describing. The world tilted. Pregnant. She was pregnant. She and Kael had created a life together. A child who would grow up free of pack politics, free to choose their own path, free to be whoever they were meant to be. Terror and joy warred in her chest. Does Kael know? Iris asked. Not yet. I need to process this first. Sera's hand moved unconsciously to her still flat stomach. We've only been here 2 months. We're still figuring out how to be mates without running for our lives. Are we ready to be parents? Is anyone ever truly ready? Iris's expression was knowing. But from what I've seen, you two have built something solid. You've faced impossible odds and come out stronger. If anyone can handle parenthood on top of everything else, it's you. Sera wanted to believe that. Wanted to feel unqualified joy at the thought of bringing new life into the world. But all she could think was, what if I'm not enough? What if I'm too damaged by exile, too broken by everything we've been through? What if I can't give this child what they need? She thanked Iris and left, her mind spinning. She found Kael at the construction site, shirtless despite the late autumn chill, sawdust dusting his dark hair as he measured lumber. He looked up when she approached, his smile immediate and warm. Hey, beautiful. Come to watch me work. I need to talk to you. Her voice must have betrayed her tension, because his expression shifted immediately to concern. What's wrong? He set down his tools, giving her his full attention. Nothing's wrong. At least, I don't think anything's wrong. But something's changed and we need to talk about it. And I don't know how you're going to react. Sera. He took her hands, his touch grounding. Whatever it is, we'll handle it together. That's what we do, remember? She took a deep breath. I'm pregnant. Silence stretched between them. Long enough that Sera's anxiety spiked. Long enough that she started composing speeches about how they could handle this. How it wasn't ideal timing, but they'd make it work. Then Kael laughed. Not nervous laughter or uncertain laughter. Pure, unrestrained joy. He swept her into his arms and spun her around, his face radiant. We're having a baby, he said, wonder coloring every word. Sera, we're going to be parents. You're happy. Relief flooded through her. You're actually happy about this? Happy. I'm terrified and ecstatic and completely overwhelmed. He set her down gently, his hands moving to cradle her face. But mostly I'm honored that you trust me enough to build this life with you. That we get to bring a child into a world where they can be free. That we're creating a family built on choice instead of obligation. I'm scared, she admitted. What if I'm not good at this? What if? Then we'll figure it out together. He kissed her forehead, then her nose, then finally her lips. We've survived exile, fought our way to freedom, built a home from nothing. Raising a child. We've got this. His confidence was infectious. Sera found herself smiling despite her fears, found herself believing that maybe, just maybe, they really could do this. Okay, she said. We're doing this. We're going to be parents. Best decision we never consciously made. Kael agreed, making her laugh. That night, they lay in bed discussing names and nursery arrangements, and whether their child would inherit Sera's amber eyes or Kael's silver ones. They talked about the values they'd teach, the freedom they'd provide, the love they'd offer without conditions or expectations. And for the first time since leaving their packs, Sera felt completely, unequivocally certain they'd made the right choice. Winter arrived with heavy snows that blanketed the valley in white. Sera's pregnancy progressed, her body changing, her senses sharpening further, her wolf settling into a protective contentment that surprised her. The northern refuge prepared for the deep cold with practiced efficiency. Livestock were brought into sheltered barns, food stores were checked and rechecked, and the communal hall became the center of evening gatherings where stories and songs kept spirits high. One evening, as a blizzard raged outside, Helena called a community meeting. We've received word from Exile's End, she announced, her voice carrying across the crowded hall. There's been a development in the Southern Territories. After the trial at the Heart Stone, something unexpected happened. Sera's hand found Kael's beneath the table. 3 wolves from Nightshade Pack have requested voluntary exile, Helena continued. They watched Sera and Kael fight for their freedom and decided they wanted the same choice. They're asking for sanctuary here. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. This could be the beginning of something significant, Helena said. If established packs start losing members to voluntary exile, if wolves see that there's an alternative to rigid hierarchy, it could change everything. After the meeting, Kael pulled Sera aside. Do you realize what this means? We didn't just save ourselves. We showed others a different way was possible. We're not symbols, Sera protested. We're just 2 wolves trying to live our lives. Maybe, but symbols have power. And if our story gives other wolves the courage to choose freedom, isn't that worth something? Sera thought about the child growing inside her, about the world they were bringing their baby into, a world where wolves could choose their own paths, where love didn't have to be forbidden, where exile could mean freedom instead of death. Yes, she said finally. It's worth everything. Outside, the storm continued. But inside the communal hall, surrounded by wolves who'd chosen authenticity over conformity, Sera felt warm and safe and exactly where she was supposed to be. She'd lost pack, family, everything she'd known. But she'd gained something infinitely more valuable. A life that was truly, completely her own. Chapter 11. Spring arrived like a promise kept. Snow melted into rushing streams, bare branches erupted with new growth, and the valley transformed from monochrome white to vibrant green. Sera's pregnancy was in its 7th month now. Her belly round and prominent, her movements slower but no less determined. She stood in the garden behind their cabin, one hand pressed to her lower back, the other resting on the curve of her stomach where their child moved and kicked with increasing vigor. Restless today? Kael appeared behind her, his arms wrapping gently around her waist, hands covering hers on her belly. Can't say I blame them. It's beautiful out here. They're always restless. But Sera leaned back against his chest, savoring the moment. Takes after their father, never still, always moving, always exploring. Or takes after their mother, too stubborn to be contained, even by a womb. He kissed her temple. Iris says you're pushing too hard, that you should be resting more. Iris worries too much. Iris is right to worry. You're carrying our child while also treating half the settlement's minor injuries and growing enough herbs to stock a small apothecary. His voice softened. Let me take care of you sometimes. That's what mates do. You already do. She turned in his arms, meeting his silver eyes. You built this entire cabin from nothing. You hunt for us, provide for us, protect us. You're already the best father this child could ask for, and they're not even born yet. Speaking of which, Kael's expression grew serious. We need to decide on names. We can't just keep calling them the baby forever. They'd been dancing around this conversation for weeks. Names carried weight, especially for wolves. They spoke to identity, belonging, legacy. What about traditional names? Sera suggested. From our old packs? Do you want to name our child after traditions we rejected? Kael countered gently. I don't want them growing up feeling like they have to live up to family expectations. I want them to have a name that's just theirs. Then we create something new. Sera moved to sit on the garden bench Kael had built, gesturing for him to join her. What names speak to you? What feels right? They spent the afternoon trading possibilities. Names from old stories, names that meant strength or freedom or hope. Names that felt like new beginnings instead of echoes of the past. Rowan, Kael said suddenly, then stopped. Sorry, that's your father's name, Sera finished. Despite everything, she saw the longing in his eyes. Do you miss him? Sometimes. Kael's jaw tightened. Not the alpha who exiled me, but the father who taught me to track, who showed me how to read the stars, who told me stories about my mother. That man, I miss him every day. Then maybe the name honors the good parts, Sera said carefully. The parts worth remembering. And if we have a daughter, we transform it, Rowena. Similar enough to acknowledge where we came from, different enough to show we're building something new. Rowena Silvercrest Blackthorn. Kael tested the name, his expression softening. I like it. And for a son, Atlas, Sera said immediately. Because they'll carry the weight of being first, the first child born to exiles who chose love over law. But they'll also carry hope for every wolf who comes after. Atlas and Rowena. Possibilities rather than certainties. Kael's hand covered hers. Perfect for children who'll write their own stories. A commotion from the settlement interrupted their moment. Raised voices, the sound of multiple wolves arriving. Sera and Kael exchanged glances, then moved toward the noise. They found the settlement's entrance crowded with refugees. 7 wolves, travel-worn and exhausted, with children clinging to their parents' hands. And leading them, to Sera's absolute shock. Lissa, her former second, looked up, tears tracking through the dirt on her face. Sera, thank the moon you're here. We need sanctuary. The communal hall filled quickly as the new arrivals settled in, accepting food and water with grateful murmurs. Helena and the other council members listened intently as Lissa explained. Things changed after your trial, Lissa said, her voice hoarse. Matthias honored his promise. He stopped all pursuit of you both, declared anyone who harmed you an enemy of Nightshade. But some pack members saw it as weakness. They challenged his authority, said he'd been corrupted by sentiment. Sera's stomach dropped. Is Matthias? He's alive. Still alpha. But barely. Lissa's expression was grim. There was an attempted coup 3 weeks ago. Marcus led it. Said the pack needed strength, not sentiment. Matthias put it down, but it cost him. He's changed. Harder. Colder. Like he's trying to prove he's still strong enough to lead. Marcus tried to overthrow him? Sera could hardly believe it. Her cousin had always been loyal to a fault. Marcus saw opportunity in chaos. Lissa took a long drink of water. But that's not why we left. After the coup attempt, Matthias instituted new laws. Stricter pack bonds, mandatory loyalty oaths, punishment for anyone who questioned pack authority. He said it was necessary to prevent future challenges. He's controlling them through fear, Kael said quietly. Exactly what we refused to accept. Yes, and some of us couldn't stomach it. Lissa gestured to the other wolves. We're not all Nightshade. 3 are from Silvercrest, 2 from smaller packs who've instituted similar crackdowns. We all chose to leave rather than live under increasing oppression. Helena leaned forward. You're all requesting permanent sanctuary, not just temporary shelter. If you'll have us. Lissa's eyes found Sera's. I know I don't deserve your help. I hunted you, helped drive you into exile. You also let us go when you could have ended it, Sera interrupted. You showed mercy when it mattered. That counts for something. We'll grant sanctuary, Helena decided, looking to the other council members for confirmation. They nodded agreement. You'll work, contribute, and learn our ways. This isn't a pack. There's no alpha here, no rigid hierarchy. If that's a problem, it's not a problem. It's exactly what we're looking for. Lys's relief was palpable. Thank you, all of you. Over the following days, Sera learned the full scope of what had happened after their exile. The trial at the Heartstone had sent ripples through multiple pack territories. Wolves who'd been unhappy with strict hierarchies saw Sera and Kael's survival as proof that alternatives existed. Some requested voluntary exile. Others pushed for reforms within their packs. And the alphas, feeling their authority threatened, cracked down harder. It's a powder keg, Lyssa said one evening, helping Sera prepare dinner while Kael worked late on a new structure. Every restrictive law creates more resentment. Every exile removes wolves who might have pushed for peaceful change. The packs are eating themselves from within. That's not what we wanted, Sera said, troubled. We didn't choose exile to start a revolution. Maybe not. But revolutions start whether we want them or not. Lyssa chopped vegetables with practiced efficiency. Change was already coming. You two just became the spark. The question now is whether that change happens through evolution or explosion. Sera's hand moved to her belly, where their child stirred restlessly. I don't want our baby growing up in a world at war. Pack against exile, tradition against progress. Then we make sure it doesn't come to that. Lyssa's expression was fierce. We build this refuge into something undeniable. We show the packs that exiles aren't weak or lawless. We're thriving. And maybe eventually they'll stop seeing us as threats and start seeing us as possibilities. You really think that can work? I think you and Kael already proved the impossible is possible. Lyssa smiled. Everything else is just details. 2 weeks later, Sera went into labor. It started at dawn. A tightening across her belly that she initially dismissed as the false contractions she'd been experiencing for days. But when they continued, growing stronger and more regular, she shook Kael awake. It's time. He was on his feet instantly, pulling on clothes with hands that trembled slightly. Okay. We prepared for this. We know what to do. Iris is expecting this. Everything's going to be. Kael. Sera caught his hand, squeezing. Breathe. Right. Breathing. Important. He took a shaky breath, then another, visibly calming himself. How are you so calm? I'm terrified, she admitted. But panic won't help our baby arrive safely. So I'm choosing to trust Iris, trust you, and trust that we can handle whatever comes. The labor lasted 14 hours. Long enough for Sera to curse Kael's name multiple times. Long enough for him to nearly break her hand with how tightly he held it. Long enough for every worst-case scenario to flash through both their minds. But when their daughter finally arrived, squalling and perfect and impossibly small, everything else faded to background noise. Rowena, Sera breathed, tears streaming down her face as Iris placed the infant on her chest. Her name is Rowena. Kael knelt beside the bed, his silver eyes shimmering with moisture as he gently touched their daughter's tiny hand. She immediately gripped his finger with surprising strength, and his laugh was half-sob. She's perfect, he whispered. Sera, she's absolutely perfect. Rowena had a dusting of dark hair, Kael's sharp features softened by infancy, and when she opened her eyes, amber, like her mother's, flecked with silver like her father's. A perfect blend of two bloodlines that should have remained enemies. Welcome to the world, little wolf, Sera murmured, pressing a kiss to their daughter's forehead. You're already the bravest thing your father and I have ever done. The Northern Refuge celebrated Rowena's birth with a feast that lasted 3 days. She was the first child born to the original exile pair, a symbol of hope, of new beginnings, of the possibility that love could create rather than destroy. Other pregnant women in the settlement suddenly felt brave enough to carry their own children to term. Couples who'd been afraid to start families in exile saw Rowena as proof that life could continue, could flourish, could expand beyond mere survival. Helena visited a week after the birth, her arms full of gifts, hand-carved toys, soft blankets, tiny clothes sewn by various settlement members. You two have become something you never intended, Helena said, watching Sera nurse Rowena by the fire. Leaders. Symbols. Hope incarnate. We just wanted to be free. Kael protested from where he was assembling a cradle. And in claiming that freedom, you showed others it was possible to want more than what tradition offered. Helena's smile was knowing. Whether you meant to or not, you've started changing the world. The question is, what do you do with that responsibility? We raise our daughter to know she has choices, Sera said firmly. We build this refuge into something sustainable. And we hope that's enough. It will be, Helena assured her, because you're not doing it alone. Every exile who comes here, every wolf who chooses freedom over fear, they're all building this new world alongside you. You planted the seed, Sera and Kael, but we're all tending the garden. That night, with Rowena sleeping peacefully in her new cradle and Kael's arm wrapped around her waist, Sera looked out the window at the settlement beyond. Smoke curled from chimneys, laughter drifted from the communal hall, and wolves moved through the evening in easy camaraderie. They'd built something real, something lasting, something worth every sacrifice they'd made. No regrets, Kael murmured against her hair. Not a single one, Sera confirmed. You, only that I didn't find you sooner. He kissed her temple. But I'll take the time we have and make it count. In her cradle, Rowena stirred and sighed, her tiny face peaceful in sleep. And outside, the first stars emerged. Ancient witnesses to a new story being written, one choice at a time. Chapter 12. 5 years passed like water through willing fingers. Each day precious, each moment building towards something greater than Sera and Kael had ever imagined. Rowena grew into a wild, fearless child with her mother's spirit and her father's laugh. She learned to shift at 3, unusually early, even for wolf children, and spent her days racing through the valley with the dozen other children born to the northern refuge. Her amber-silver eyes saw a world without the divisions that had nearly destroyed her parents, and her howl rang pure and joyful across the mountains. The settlement itself had tripled in size. What began as 200 exiles had swelled to nearly 600, wolves fleeing increasingly oppressive pack structures, seeking the freedom to choose their own paths. New buildings dotted the valley, fields expanded to feed growing numbers, and the council had restructured to accommodate representatives from various skill groups rather than relying on seniority alone. They were building a society. Imperfect, still finding its way, but undeniably real. Sera stood in the healing house. Now a proper clinic with 3 rooms and supplies that would have made any pack healer jealous. She'd become the settlement's primary physician. Her knowledge of herbs and medicine expanded through years of study and practice. Today she was treating a young wolf who'd broken his arm during construction work, her hands gentle but efficient as she set the bone. This wouldn't have happened if you'd been paying attention instead of showing off for Mira, she chided, though her tone was kind. The young wolf, barely 16, flushed. I wasn't showing off. You absolutely were. And now you have 6 weeks and a splint to think about whether impressing someone is worth a broken bone. She finished binding the splint, then softened. But for what it's worth, Mira was impressed. She asked Iris about you 3 times while you were being treated. His face lit up, making Sera laugh. Young love, watching it bloom here, without the weight of pack politics and arranged matings, never failed to warm her heart. Kael appeared in the doorway, Rowena perched on his shoulders, both grinning. There's my beautiful healer. Ready for lunch. Always. Sera washed her hands, then moved to kiss him. A brief touch that still sent warmth through her chest even after 5 years. What's the occasion? You usually eat at the work site. We have visitors. His expression was carefully neutral, but she caught the tension in his shoulders. From Nightshade Pack. They're asking to speak with you specifically. Sera's stomach tightened. 5 years of peace, of building their life away from pack politics, and now, who? Matthias. And he's alone. They met in the communal hall, neutral ground where the entire settlement could witness if needed. Sera insisted Kael stay close, and Rowena, too young to understand the implications, sat between her parents, playing with a carved wolf Kael had made her. Matthias entered, and Sera barely recognized him. Her brother had aged more than 5 years should account for. Gray streaked his golden hair, lines carved deep around his eyes and mouth, and he moved with the careful precision of someone carrying constant pain. But his eyes, when they found hers, still held the warmth of the brother she remembered. Sera. His voice was rough with emotion. Thank you for seeing me. You came alone. She studied him carefully. That was either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. He managed a smile. But I needed to see you, to see what you've built here. His gaze swept the hall, taking in the community gathered to witness. The stories don't do it justice. 600 wolves living together without an alpha, without pack bonds, thriving from what I can see. We're managing, Sera said carefully. What do you want, Matthias? First, to apologize. He stepped closer, stopping a respectful distance away. I was wrong. About exile, about you, about what strength really means. I tried to force loyalty through fear, and it nearly destroyed Nightshade Pack. We lost 50 wolves to voluntary exile in the past 3 years. Our numbers are down, our territory is contested, and I've spent every day wondering if I pushed too hard trying to prevent the very thing I caused. I'm sorry, Sera said, and meant it. I never wanted to see Nightshade suffer. I know, which brings me to my second reason for coming. Matthias's expression grew earnest. I want to propose an alliance, not pack bonds. I understand you've moved beyond that, but cooperation, trade agreements, mutual defense pacts, knowledge sharing. Nightshade needs to evolve or it will die. You've proven evolution is possible. Silence stretched across the hall as Sera processed his words. You want us to help the pack that exiled us? Kael said, his tone neutral but his body tense. I want to learn from wolves who found a better way. Matthias looked at him directly. I failed you both. I let tradition blind me to what mattered. But I'm here now asking, let me try to make it right. What changed? Sera asked. 5 years ago, you would have died before admitting pack structure wasn't perfect. Marcus's betrayal changed me. Watching loyal wolves choose exile over oppression changed me. And, his voice cracked slightly, and becoming a father changed me. My son was born 2 years ago. Atlas. I named him after the name I heard you'd chosen, hoping that maybe someday, you'd let your children meet, that our family wouldn't stay broken forever. Sera's breath caught. Matthias had a son. She had a nephew she'd never met, growing up in the pack that had exiled her. What does the pack think about this alliance? Kael asked. The younger wolves support it. The elders, less so. But they're pragmatic enough to see we need this. Your refuge has resources we need, medical knowledge, construction techniques, diplomatic connections with human settlements. And we have things you need, warriors for defense, access to larger trade networks, political legitimacy with other packs who still see exiles as rogues. So it's a practical alliance, Helena said, stepping forward. Based on mutual benefit rather than pack bonds. Exactly. Matthias looked at the council members. I'm not asking you to rejoin Nightshade or submit to pack hierarchy. I'm asking if we can build something new together. A bridge between pack structure and exile freedom. Cooperation without domination. Sera looked at Kael, who squeezed her hand. Through their mate bond, she felt his conflicted emotions. Anger at what they'd endured, but also hope that maybe, just maybe, reconciliation was possible. We'll discuss it, Sera said finally. The council will vote. But Matthias? I need to know, is this just political strategy, or do you genuinely want to reconnect as family? Her brother's mask crumbled, showing the grief beneath. I miss you, Sera. Every day. I miss the sister who was braver than I ever had the courage to be. I missed watching you become this. He gestured at the settlement, at the community she'd helped build. This leader, this healer, this force of nature. And I want my son to know his aunt. To understand that family can exist outside rigid pack structures. Tears burned Sera's eyes. I miss you too. Even after everything, I miss you. Then maybe we start there, Matthias said softly. With family. And build the rest as we go. Rowena chose that moment to pipe up, her child's voice cutting through the emotional tension. Mama, is that man my uncle? Sera laughed through her tears. Yes, sweetheart. That's your Uncle Matthias. Rowena studied him with the brutal honesty of children. You look sad. Why are you sad? Because I haven't seen your mother in a very long time, Matthias said, kneeling to her level. And I missed her very much. Then you should visit more. Rowena's logic was unassailable. That's what Papa says. If you miss someone, you make time to see them. It's not complicated. Out of the mouths of babes, Helena murmured, smiling. The council voted 3 days later, after extensive debate and community input. The alliance passed barely, but it passed. They would start with small trade agreements, build trust gradually, and see where cooperation could lead. But before Matthias left to return to Nightshade territory, Sera invited him to dinner at their cabin. Just family, she'd insisted. No politics, no pack business. just siblings trying to reconnect. They sat around the table Kael had built, eating stew Sera had made, while Rowena chattered endlessly about her favorite games and the rabbit she was learning to track. Matthias listened with rapt attention, asking questions, laughing at her stories, looking more relaxed than Sera had seen him in the communal hall. "She's remarkable," Matthias said when Rowena finally ran outside to play before bedtime. "Smart, confident, completely unself-conscious. You've raised her well." "We're still figuring it out," Kael admitted. "But she's teaching us as much as we're teaching her. That's what children do." Matthias's smile was wistful. "Atlas is 2 now, just starting to shift, just starting to find his personality. And every day, I think about what kind of world I'm raising him in, what values I'm teaching him, whether I'm repeating my father's mistakes or finding something better." "Bring him next time," Sera said impulsively. "Let the cousins meet. Let them grow up knowing family doesn't have to be divided by pack lines." "I'd like that." Matthias's voice was thick. "Sera, I know I can't undo the past 5 years. Can't give you back what you lost when I exiled you. But I want to try to build something new. Not just politically, personally. I want my son to have an aunt who teaches him that courage means choosing your own path. I want to watch Rowena grow up. I want to be your brother again, not just your former alpha." "Then be my brother," Sera said simply. "Come visit when you can. Write letters. Share stories about Atlas. Let's prove that family bonds can be stronger than pack bonds. That love doesn't have to be forbidden or tragic." "I can do that." He stood, preparing to leave. "Thank you. For seeing me, for giving me a chance, for showing me there's more than one way to be strong." After he left, Sera stood on the porch watching stars emerge, Kael's arms wrapped around her from behind. "Do you think it'll work?" she asked. "This alliance between the refuge and Nightshade? I think we've already proven that impossible things can work." He kissed her neck. "We built a life from exile. We raised a daughter in freedom. We created a community from outcasts and misfits. Adding a diplomatic alliance seems almost easy by comparison." "Almost," she agreed, laughing. Rowena's distant howl echoed across the valley, young and joyful, calling to other children playing in the twilight. Soon, other voices joined her. A chorus of young wolves who knew nothing of the divisions that had nearly destroyed their parents' generation. "Listen to that," Kael murmured. "That's the sound of the future we fought for." "It's beautiful," Sera whispered. And it was. Every howl, every child's laugh, every family choosing love over tradition. It was the manifestation of the choice she and Kael had made 5 years ago. The choice to be mates instead of enemies, to build instead of destroy, to love instead of hate. The choice that had saved them both. 10 years later, the Northern Refuge had become more than a settlement. It was a movement. Over 1,000 wolves now called the valley home, with satellite communities established in 3 neighboring territories. The alliance with Nightshade Pack had held and grown, eventually expanding to include 4 other packs who'd embraced reform over oppression. Trade routes connected the refuge to human settlements and pack territories alike, and diplomatic councils met quarterly to discuss cooperation without domination. It wasn't perfect. There were still conflicts, still wolves who clung to old hierarchies, still moments when tradition and progress clashed violently. But change was happening. Slowly, painfully, inevitably. Sera stood on the porch of their expanded cabin. Kael had added rooms as their family grew, including a study where she compiled medical texts and a workshop where he crafted furniture sold across 3 territories. At 43, she had silver threading through her red-brown hair, laugh lines around her eyes, and hands that bore the scars of 15 years healing others. She'd never been happier. Rowena was 15 now, a beautiful, fierce young woman who'd inherited her mother's healing gifts and her father's building skills. She was courting a young wolf from one of the allied packs, and watching her daughter navigate romance without forbidden love or pack politics made Sera's heart swell with pride. Their son, Atlas, named for the boy they'd dreamed of before Rowena's surprise arrival, was 12 and convinced he could talk to birds. Kael claimed the boy had his mother's wild spirit. Sera insisted he got it from his father's side. And little Luna, their youngest at 7, was currently trying to convince a very patient barn cat to let her braid flowers into its fur. Family meeting. Kael called from inside, and their children came running. A chaos of noise and motion that had taken years to feel natural, but now seemed like the only way to exist. They gathered around the expanded table, and Sera smiled at the picture they made. Her family, her choice, her joy. "Your Aunt Lissa is bringing someone special tonight," Sera announced. "A young wolf from Silvercrest Pack who's requesting sanctuary. His name is Rowan." Kael's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. His father had died 3 years ago. Old age and regret, according to the message that had reached them through diplomatic channels. Rowan Silvercrest had never reconciled with his exiled son, but he'd stopped hunting him. That had been enough. Hearing his father's name again, spoken by a young wolf seeking the same freedom they'd claimed, it felt like closure and continuation all at once. "Why's he coming here?" Atlas asked. "Because he chose his mate over pack loyalty," Sera explained. "Just like your father and I did 15 years ago. And he needs to know that choice doesn't mean the end of everything. It means the beginning of something better. Like you and Papa," Rowena said, smiling at them. "You chose each other and built all this." "We built it together," Kael corrected. "With every wolf who chose freedom over fear, love over hate, possibility over tradition. This refuge isn't just ours. It belongs to everyone brave enough to claim their own path." That evening they welcomed young Rowan, barely 20, his eyes wide with hope and terror, into their home. They fed him, listened to his story, and promised him the same thing the Northern Refuge had promised Sera and Kael 15 years ago. Safety, community, choice. After dinner, as the children showed Rowan around the settlement, Sera and Kael stood on their porch watching the stars emerge. "Do you ever think about that night?" Sera asked. "The trial, the first time we saw each other?" "Every day," Kael admitted. "I think about the moment my wolf recognized you as mate. The moment I knew my entire life was about to change, and I had a choice: follow tradition or follow my heart." "Best choice you ever made?" She was teasing, but also genuinely asking. "Best choice I ever made," he confirmed. "Even knowing what it would cost. Even knowing we'd lose everything. Because Sera," he turned her to face him, silver eyes gleaming in the starlight, "we didn't lose everything. We lost pack hierarchy and political alliances, and the approval of wolves who valued control over freedom. But we gained this." He gestured at the settlement, at the life they'd built. "We gained each other. We gained children who'll never know the suffocation of forbidden love. We gained a community that proves wolves can choose cooperation over domination. That's not loss, that's victory. We changed the world," Sera said softly. "We actually did it. We started the change," he corrected. "But it's every wolf who came after. Every exile who chose freedom, every pack that reformed, every child raised knowing they have choices. They're the ones finishing what we started." In the distance, Rowena's howl rose, confident and strong, calling her siblings to join her. Atlas and Luna added their voices, creating a chorus that echoed across the valley. And from the settlement, other wolves answered. Young and old, born here or found here, all choosing to raise their voices together. A symphony of freedom. "Listen to that," Kael murmured, pulling Sera close. "That's the sound of wolves who chose their own destinies. That's the sound of love winning over law. That's the sound of the world we made possible." Sera leaned into his warmth, her heart full to bursting. 15 years ago, she'd stood in a clearing and chosen this man over everything she'd ever known. She'd been terrified, uncertain, convinced she was making either the bravest or stupidest decision of her life. Now, surrounded by the life they'd built, the family they'd created, and the community that had grown from their choice, she knew with absolute certainty. It had been the right choice. The only choice. The choice that had set them both free. "I love you," she whispered against his chest. "Every day, every moment, every breath, I choose you." "And I choose you," Kael said, his voice thick with emotion. "Forever, little wolf. In this life and whatever comes after. You're my mate, my partner, my home." They stood together as night deepened and stars multiplied overhead. Two wolves who defied tradition, survived exile, and built a legacy of love that would echo through generations. And in the valley below, their children howled with joy, free to love whoever they chose, free to build whatever lives they dreamed, free to be exactly who they were meant to be. The Northern Refuge thrived. The forbidden became possible. And love, fierce, impossible, world-changing love, conquered every obstacle in its path. Epilogue, 20 years later. The historical records would call it the Treaty of Silver Dawn, the agreement that reshaped wolf society across 3 continents. But those who lived through it knew the truth. The treaty was built on the foundation of two wolves who'd chosen each other over everything, and proved that love could be stronger than law. Sera Silvercrest Blackthorn stood before the assembled council. Representatives from 12 pact territories and 15 exile settlements, and read the terms her parents had helped draft. Let it be known, mate bonds transcend pack loyalty. No wolf shall be exiled for choosing their true mate, regardless of pack origin, social standing, or political alliance. Love is not forbidden. Freedom is not treachery. Choice is not weakness. We, the undersigned, commit to a new way forward. Cooperation without domination, tradition balanced with progress, hierarchy transformed by compassion. In the audience, Sera and Kael sat with their grandchildren, Rowena's 3 daughters, Atlas's twin sons, and Luna's newborn son. They were older now, silver-haired and lined, but their hands were still intertwined, their bond still burning bright. "We did it," Sera whispered to her mate. "We actually changed everything." "We started it," Kael corrected, as he always did. "But they're finishing it. The next generation, building on what we began." And as the treaty was signed, as wolves from enemy packs shook hands and former exiles were welcomed home and young wolves celebrated the freedom to love without fear, Sera understood the full measure of what they'd accomplished. They hadn't just survived exile. They'd transformed it into liberation. For themselves. For their children. For every wolf brave enough to choose love over law, hope over hate, and freedom over fear. The moonlight streamed through the hall's windows, blessing the assembled wolves. And somewhere, on the wind, a howl rose, joyful, triumphant, utterly free. The sound of wolves choosing their own destinies. The sound of impossible love made manifest. The sound of a world reborn.